My phone, it is 6 o'clock. Good evening and welcome to the Fairfield Area Chamber of Commerce Meet the Candidates Forum. This event is free and open to the public thanks to our presenting sponsor, Freeman Cavanagh Law Firm. Thank you to the Fairfield Media Center for live streaming our event. And thank you for supporting this event. I am Joe Ledger, and I am your moderator for this evening. I am part of this year's Leadership Fairfield class and have been here and have been on the Farm Bureau board for over 20 years. This is not a debate. While we understand that policies can make people passionate, we expect this to be a civil and respectful event. No shouting from the audience. Hold your applause until the end of each section because we're short on time. Candidates are limited to 3 minutes per question. There will be signs letting them know the 1 minute, the 30-second mark, and when to stop. I will stop you when the time is up. Tonight's timekeeper is Joanna Jackman, and she's sitting here in the front row, and she runs the show tonight. Let's begin with the mayor race. Mayor Connie Boyer and challenger Ed Noyes, let's start by having each of you introduce yourself and tell us why you are running. We drew lottery before we started, and Ed Noyes is number one.
Good evening. Thank you for coming. It's amazing to me how many people care about Fairfield. It's a magnificent community, and it's a unique community. And, you know, I grew up in a small farm in Nebraska, and I know about rural life. I went to law school in California, but I begged my school to let me come to Iowa to finish law school because I wanted to move to Fairfield so badly. Before I even moved to Fairfield in 1984, I sponsored a program that got 140 businesses to offer something to anyone who would move to Fairfield within 6 months. I had a vision at that time for a magnificent community, and I'm so proud to be here. I ended up, a few years later, I sponsored one of the very first cable access TV shows in Iowa called Community Empowerment, Rediscovering Our Unlimited Resources, because I had a vision of what it would happen if we brought together the talent and the goodwill and the love of the entire community to serve each other and what we could create. Later in 2002, I ran for Attorney General, and I co-authored a book called Restoring the Heart of America, A Return to Government by the People. The same basic theme of empowering the people, which I believe was the original vision of the Founding Fathers. I believe in self-government, and I believe that we have the right, we have the divine right to self-govern. And there's forces now that want to tell everyone what to do, and I think many of our problems come from authorities beyond us, and I think we have a duty and an opportunity to do something magnificent if we do embrace self-government. I was involved in International Community Service Day leadership programs where we got hundreds of volunteers to come together for 4 years in a row, and we did these magnificent community projects all on a volunteer basis. We raised the money, we did all these things. Essentially, I've had a vision for Fairfield for 40 years, and I'm very fortunate to live in this community. We have very serious needs that we need to address, and tonight we'll get to talk about them. And I thank you for you being here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Boyer.
Okay. Thank you to the Chamber and the Fairfield Arts and Convention Center for hosting tonight. I sincerely thank the citizens for allowing me to be your mayor over the last 4 years. I'm truly honored and privileged to do so. I've tried to be responsive to citizens' concerns. One way I demonstrated that was by having town halls and forums. This was to bring government closer to you so that you could ask questions, tell us what your concerns were, help you understand how our departments work and our police department, and so I hope that has helped. I also want to mention our city council. They are open and for discussion with you. A lot of what happens on that level is at the city level, or at the city committee levels, and we participate. We want you to participate in that process. And sometimes there's debate on what's the best path to move forward, and the city council has to determine and balance the city's needs and the concerns of the citizens. Sometimes they have to find that compromise. And I want to ensure the citizens that they have a good crew and staff working for the city. The staff and the departments don't take lightly the money they have to spend and the budgets they have to work within every year. And this last couple of years has been challenging. And we have more challenges ahead to be able to fit within those budgets. I've also tried to address areas of risk for the city and mitigate those risks by implementing some additional activities and things that we did over the last 4 years. I started a human resources employee training program that goes over sexual harassment, discrimination, so every year our city staff now has some training. Accounting and tracking of all our contracts with leases, contracts, anything that has a maturity date, because I want to make sure that we don't miss that and we have time for that to be reviewed by City Council. We see that at our fall work session. Accounting tracking of our 30-year comprehensive plan. After all, this is the city's plan. And writing a disaster recovery plan. This last Friday, in fact, we had a tabletop exercise where our city staff and our department heads got together and we went through a certain scenario. And it was amazing how responsive they were and gave us some good ideas, some things we need to add to our plan. So I really appreciate the participation in that. We've made good progress over the last 4 years, and we have some good projects coming up, and I hope that you will support me so we can have continuity on those projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Boyer. The first question I will direct to Mayor Boyer. What are your top 3 priorities if elected?
Oh, top 3. Well, I'm going to say housing is one of them. And we have the housing study, obviously, that hopefully you're all aware of. And what I would like to see on that is continued work on the project that's coming south of town. We're in the process of hiring a FEDA director. And so, there's a little bit of a gap right now, but that needs to move forward. And the city will have a responsibility for city water and streets and sewer down in that area. One of the other things is to make sure we're moving forward on the different elements of the housing study that include finance, education to our community, quality within our housing in town, and recruiting developers for new projects. I'd also like to see, and I'm just going to call it a real estate investment club for lack of a better term, but this is a citizen group that they would invest a certain amount of money to be able to rehab houses. They might want to do infill lots. They might want to do planned unit developments. They might want to do a tiny home village. So all of those things I would like to see take place over the next couple of years, at least get started. So housing is a big thing. Certainly the fire station is in process, and we'll work on that. I would like to see also a master plan for our arts and culture. And again, that's going to be citizen-led because I think we do have lots of arts and culture here, so let's see where we can go with that. And I've got lots of other things, but you said 3, so I think I'm going to stop right there.
Thank you. Ed?
Yeah, the 3 biggest crises that we face are the education youth crises, the housing crises, and the budget crises. So with regards to the youth, these are forces that have been involved in education in America for decades. I was raised in Nebraska, which claimed to have one of the highest levels of education, as did Iowa back in the 70s, early 70s, and all that. And in fact, they did nothing to embellish me as an individual. Those trends have gotten worse with Common Core. So the children have basically, and I was talking to a gentleman earlier, the children don't even know how to work. They don't have the love of work. They don't have any real skills. Many of them can't even read or write. It's a little catastrophe. And I think the way to solve it is to recognize that every individual that's ever been born is entirely unique. And the education should be to bring out what I call the inner superhero. You can read about the whole program, hopefully you got one of these, but it recognizes that every child, and you know this from your own personal experience, every child is entirely unique and wants to be their own person. And if we could devote even an hour of day is all we would need to do, let the children learn what they want to learn. The second component of that is to bring in a massive community mentorship program and allow the skills, knowledge, and caring of the seniors, but it could be anyone in the community, to bring their knowledge to these children. I've spoken to many seniors already, and they love this idea. Seniors in this throughout the country basically are put aside and have no real purpose, and this would be an excellent way in which they could contribute to the education of our children. We need to free them, we need to liberate them. The second one is the housing crisis. There's a whole program that I've evolved here called Housing Solved, which does many unique things, but what it fundamentally does is it recognizes the trend that we have right now for young people to move to the Midwest, with Iowa the #1 chosen state. That's a fact. So what I want to do is I'm going to suggest that we do a public-private partnership between the Sustainable Living Department at the university, which needs help to survive, and private developers, and we create these incredible eco-villages and these modular structures that the children want, the young people want to live, and they will move here, I promise you. That will boost our economy in a huge way. They'll come here because of our education system. And the third thing is the budget crisis, which I hope to speak about again, because we have a real problem with the fire station. We were promised $5 million, it came in at $11 million, now it's down to $8 million. And we can solve that problem, but we have to take more intelligent action.
Thank you. The next question will be directed to Mayor Boyer first. How would you attract more business and investment to the city?
Good question. I think one of the things that we have to do first, there's a prerequisite for that. As our current larger employers are already having trouble finding employees. Part of that is our housing issue. So they can't get new employees until we have more housing for them to live in. So that has to be done. There are several things that have to be simultaneously done. That is a big one. Another thing is I would like to see a marketing piece that we do for our employers to take to job fairs. I've just recently talked to one of our major employers who said young people don't want to come to a small town, they want to stay in the big cities. We need to let them know what our offerings are here so they can take a chance on a smaller town for good quality of life. We have the amenities here. One of the best ways to increase our tax base is through commercial properties, and that's important, there's no question. However, we've got to get our workforce here and then continue to support our current businesses, help them grow, and do some of the other things like we did was the private-public partnership on the Shell building. That was a successful program. I think that's another possibility that we could do for future. But again, we have to currently get more workforce here before we can bring in some other larger businesses.
Thank you. Ed?
One of the biggest problems with businesses coming here is we don't have people that are wanting to work. This is endemic throughout the country. I've spoken to local employers even here tonight that say exactly the same thing. Again, it's a dramatic failure of our education system. We must accept this fact. So if we can correct that and we can reinstill the love of life and the love of work and the honor of work, then people will want to come here. Employers will want to move here because we have that intelligent, dedicated workforce. Once again, we can by doing high-tech modular housing, they're doing them out of the Scandinavia now for these beautiful homes for around $60,000. I was doing the research earlier this week. This is exactly what these young people want to live in. Now, if you read my Housing Solved, they talk about what's called ADUs, which is accessory dwelling units, which is a trend now. They're essentially mother-in-law suites, so that we can, again, help to solve the housing problem by allowing people to build these accessory units so that their retired parents can come live in their home without having to go to retirement facilities. That will spur, again, more building and will help us to lower the tax base. We do have to stop destroying valuable property, which we did when we destroyed the DOT building. That building was an incredibly beautiful building. I know personally of this fact. And it had the highest use, which was for senior housing and a daycare facility. Those were not factors that were considered by the task force. And it's a problem. It's a problem, and now we've torn the thing down, and it's a tragedy. But we have to look at that. All tragedies have within them the seed of the solutions, if you realize that that's the truth of tragedies. So I see it as to recognize that we don't destroy things. We go back and we look at what our highest priorities are, which would previously had been identified, senior housing and daycare downtown, which that building was perfectly suited for that. It wouldn't have cost the city a penny to allow it to be developed. It would have added to the tax base, which again would lower the property taxes for everyone. So there's very much we can do. It has to do with making us desirable. People will move to Fairfield, they already are, because of the unique educational opportunities here. If they come here, the young people come here, they will create their own jobs. They're entrepreneurs. I know they will, and we will have a vibrancy that we have not seen in this community for decades.
Thank you. Next question will be directed to Ed. What do you think is the city's biggest strength?
Well, it's our legacy. It's who we are. You can go back to the Native Americans with the Chautauqua, and it was a place of peace. You can go a little further in history and you see where we helped the slaves to escape. Then you see the legacy of Parsons and what that did for this community, and became prestigious for both academic excellence and athletic excellence. And then those of us that came here, thousands of people came here to pursue and to create a university of knowledge and peace for the world. All of these things are beautiful things. Those are the starting points. That's our launching point. So we have the intelligence, we have the goodwill of the people. What we're not doing is we're not using that intelligence in a way that masterminds what could be created. If you study the teachings of great philosophers such as Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich, and Dr. Wayne Dyer with The Power of Intention, you'll see that there are certain success techniques that have been used by all the incredibly successful people, and there's commonality to it. Those success techniques could be incorporated within our community to bring us all together in a spirit of unity. We can put aside the political divide. The political divide is only ideological. It's not at the personal level. In truth, we care about each other, and we care mostly about our children. So we have an opportunity to do something, and I call it the Renaissance Now. I did create a website called Campaign for Fairfield that will survive beyond this campaign, and you'll see that there. You'll see the posts there, and how we can literally create a renaissance and be world famous for what Fairfield, Iowa did. And I don't think it's coincidental that we live in Jefferson County, Iowa. Iowa is the heart of our nation, in my opinion. And Jefferson County was named after Thomas Jefferson, who was the greatest exponent of self-government and inalienable rights and freedom of the people. He wanted us to be self-governed. He tried to stop the forces that would accumulate power again. The founders they said that we have to be careful about having those powers reaccumulate, and take away the rights and freedoms of the people. That's actually what's happened. That's why we're in such a mess right now. And if you want to make political change, trust me on this point, the place to do it is locally. We can't look elsewhere for our change. We can do it here locally. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's hard to hear back here. Maybe if we talk closer to the mic. They can't turn it up.
How about this?
Is that better?
That's my
Thank
dear
you.
wife.
Thank you. I will repeat the question for Mayor Boyer. What do you think is the city's biggest strength?
Well, I'm going to start with its people. I think we already have superheroes here. I can start with a few. Alex and Christy Kessel, who started the Little Superheroes. Beth Alonzo, who works with Interact every month to do projects for our community. They work with the seniors. They work with the schools. I could go on. Werner Elmker, he's everywhere, doing our history, right? Dick DeAngelis, Jason Strong, Lawrence Iyer, Tim Britton, who put together the Fairfield History Series. What an incredible project, doing it basically for nothing. Susan Kessel and Sally Johnston, who visioned and saw this facility that we need, and now we have it. There are several people. We have a long history of agriculture, education, arts and culture, and entrepreneurship in Fairfield, Iowa, and it continues to this day. We have Heartland Forward, which is a think tank for Walmart, came out a couple of years ago, and we have a lot of young entrepreneurs in Fairfield, Iowa, who are making it happen here. And there's nowhere that, we were like 35th, I believe, out of like some 550 micropolitans in the country, mind you. So that's one thing. Our cultural and recreational amenities, like our trails, our recreation center, this facility, they are incredible for a town our size. We should be very thankful for that. I already mentioned our entrepreneurship, I think, is very well alive, and so I think those are some of our biggest strengths again, but it's our people. The incredible work ethic of our people and their generosity to our community is amazing. So thank you to everyone who participates in that.
Thank you. This time I will direct it to Ed since I've done Connie twice. I'm sorry.
Gotcha.
How do you plan to involve residents in the decision-making process in our town?
Well, that's a beautiful question, because it's one of my complaints, frankly. I have not seen the receptivity at the city council. I'm sorry, I have not. I've been there and not even allowed to complete a 4-minute presentation because they cut me off at 3 minutes. So, and it's, as you know, it's not an easy thing to go before a governing body and make a request. And I don't see that. I don't see the receptivity. The other thing that I'm concerned about is that I did not see hardly any debate among the city council. I didn't see it. I saw a lot of rubber stamping. And I think the citizens have a right to have their city council members, the ones that represent them, engage in vigorous debate. I did not see that. I'm sorry, I did not see it. So I think what we need to do is we need to encourage all of the citizens to come forth. And again, one way to do this is to come together in these mastermind circles and use our higher intelligence and goodwill, put our egos aside, and work together to create something magnificent. You know, Jesus said, whenever 2 or more are gathered in my name, I am there. He was talking about the mastermind consciousness. This is all laid out in Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. It's a phenomenal technology, and it's very simple and easy to do. But you do have to come together. You have to bring like-minded people together with good intent. And then what happens is one speaks and it sparks the other one, then it sparks something. And then before you know it, you're having epiphanies and you're having understandings and visions that you would never have on your own. So yes, we do have magnificent people in this community, but I do not think that we've properly utilized that in a systematic way that would actually be usable. And especially, again, our seniors are not being utilized. It's a tragedy. And I've spoken to many of these seniors, and they can't wait to give their love and knowledge and support to the young people. They can't wait. They're very happy to hear of this concept, and I pray that we can do something that significant in this community.
Thank you. Mayor Boyer?
Repeat the question one more time, please.
Yes, I will. How do you plan to involve residents in the decision-making process in our town?
So again, I think my continuation of city town halls is important. We invite people to participate. I can't drag you out of your homes, right? You have to look twice a month at the city's website to look at the agendas and know what is going on. It is part of your citizenship to participate in the process. And it's your responsibility to also understand what the process is. And for example, when the city has a property to be disposed of, there's a process to go there. You don't come to city council and just give an offering with a check. The city has to go through the process of saying they want to sell that piece of property. So it's important, again, to understand the process. And if you don't understand the process, ask. Ask someone, ask the city administrator, ask our city attorney, ask the mayor, the city clerk. These are important processes for you to understand. When it comes to city council, yes, we do have a time limit for people. And that is there for a reason, so that we get the most succinct opinion of the person speaking. And many times we have one person speak for many people, and that's okay. We can also open that up sometimes when it's appropriate, but almost every time that I can think of when there was a debate or there was something not quite finished discussing, we would move that to committee, and that's where the good work happens. And that's where a lot of the debate gets worked out before it comes to city council. Now, sometimes people still vote differently, and that's okay. But when it gets to city council, a lot of the debate has already happened and been planned for. I think that's important to understand. So again, I think all the council members are open to conversations, phone calls, including our city administrator and myself. So I invite anybody who has a concern or question to please call any of us and come to the committee meetings. Come to the town halls. They are not attended as well as I would like. So, thank you.
Thank you. The next question I will direct to Mayor Boyer. In a recent housing study, statistics show that Fairfield is in need of nice, affordable, single-dwelling homes. What is the city currently working on and will be working on in the future to increase the number of attractive family homes in Fairfield?
Good question. So one of the things that we recently did was participate with FEDA in purchasing the land south of Fairfield, down by the hospital. It's west of the hospital and south of the child care center. So one of the things that has to happen is the street that goes through there has to be deeded basically over to the city, or the city has to purchase that land. We've got to get a street down there, sewer and water, those kinds of things. One thing that we did, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, we changed the codes, planning and zoning codes, particularly for one area of town, so that smaller homes can be built there. So that's one thing that's done. We haven't seen any action yet, but that's why I think a group effort could be useful, because it's hard for one person to take on the risk to build a house and sell it and try to make money. We changed some code about smaller lots that are in town. Sometimes we've had a house that burnt down, and because of the codes, nobody was able to rebuild on it. So we changed those codes. Again, I'm hoping that a group could put together where we spread the risk amongst individuals, and we can get some work on that. And let's see. Through the Area 15, there are no-interest, low-interest loans. One of the things that's happening is our code enforcement officer, when he comes across the situation, and it can be useful, he is providing a referral over to our Fairfield Economic Development Association to make contact with that homeowner so that they can find out about that program and figure out if that's useful. I think a lot more people need to know about that program. So we're going to be working on education of the community of that program. Also, we want to get together with the banks and be able to talk about home buyer programs and how can we be useful there to get that out into the community. Certainly, every few years, we look at our abatement program and say, okay, is this still appropriate for Fairfield? Is this what we need? So I anticipate that will be reviewed also in the coming up year or two.
Thank you. Ed, I'm going to repeat the question since it was so long. In a recent housing study, statistics show that Fairfield is in need of nice, affordable, single-dwelling homes. What is the city currently working on and will be working on in the future to increase the number of attractive family homes in Fairfield?
Yes, so obviously we need to be looking at rezoning certain areas that are not being used. They're commercially zoned, but there's actually some beautiful land out there that could easily, in my opinion, be converted to residential areas, and that would be great. I already spoke about how we can actually literally create the less expensive homes. That would be an amazing industry, by the way. Anybody that's listening they want to make a bunch of money, help to design these new homes, these new eco-friendly homes that are modular, and they go up very quickly, and they will provide people what they want. So that's what they want. They want an inexpensive home, and we can do that. It's being done. We're just not doing it, but we can do it. We have the expertise, like I said. We have a world-class sustainable living department. We have a department that we have people that work there in the field of what's called microgrids, where you can combine your electrical productions of each home through various solar panels and things, and they basically create resiliency within that, which lowers the utility cost and makes it much easier for people to live inexpensively. We just give people what they want. We have to be intelligent enough to see what the trends are and jump ahead of the trend and give the young people in particular what they want. Yes, there's already a trend to allow seniors to come here. That's happening. And there's no reason why we can't expand upon that. You can see the trend. It's right there. So if we did the same thing and we created these senior housing places for people to come in a spirit of welcomeness and actually higher purpose, we talked about that with the mentorship program. Fairfield is a beautiful, magnificent place. We have everything that we need to create something that is absolutely magical. By having this expanded housing, we can then lower the property tax rates. Iowa has the 10th highest property taxes in the nation. We need to do this. We need to make it more attractive. There's much that we can do, and we just got to get to work. We got to come together and get to work and see what's obviously there before us that people are saying that they already want.
Thank you. The next question, I will start with you, Ed. What qualifies you and what skills will you bring to the position?
Well, I already spoke about what I've already done, the community projects that I've already been involved in, the leadership positions. I am a lifetime student of what you could call human development technologies. So I've studied success principles, and that's why I've been able to do so many things. And it has to do with the power of one's awareness. This is the great teachers, such as Wayne Dyer. He raised millions of dollars on Iowa Public Television and NPR. All he was talking about was the power of intention. And humans have that ability. We have that ability. If we put our attention on something, that thing grows. And I've been trained in this technology on how to build a magnificent context out of capturing the highest levels of intentions that arrive at a context. And when you arrive at that context and you hold that context, the intentions happen as if by magic. They just happen because you're holding the context. I know that technology. I've used it thousands of times. I've renovated some of the worst buildings in this town into some of the most magnificent structures. I did that with my office building downtown, literally the worst building on the square. I saved the first Christian church. It was in, unfortunately, not the greatest of repair. Let's put it that way. I completely went through that entire church and I saved it, and it's been completely restored. Some of the finest residential properties in this town I restored. I know how to restore real estate. I know how to do all that. Obviously, my training as a lawyer has been quite helpful, and so I think it's good to have a good, strong mind. And my father taught me the power of will, and he did things that you can't even imagine that 10 men couldn't do. My dad did it, and he showed me how to do it in a silent way, but it had to do with the strength of his will and his devotion to the family. My mother gave me her pure heart, so I have the combination of this beautiful, loving heart and this powerful will. And believe me, I'm situated to do everything that I said that I can do. And it's for all of us. It's not for me. It's for the community. We done? Oh, still got 30 seconds. My God, you're good at that. Yeah, inspiration, what I write about it in some of at the website. We all have the capacity to be inspired. And when you become inspired, you become a better person. So there's forces that keep you from being inspired, but we can be inspired. We can teach that to our children, and they can then live an inspired life, and we together can create something truly magnificent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I'll say
Repeat.
the question again, Mayor. What qualifies you and what skills will you bring to the position?
What qualifies me is I've done it for 4 years. I've been on city council 2 different times for 2 different stints to take somebody's place and then run another term. What qualifies me is leadership already in the community. I'm a doer. I've been on many committees. Fairfield Strategic Plan, the Fairfield Go Green Plan. I was a Fairfield Arts and Convention Center board member for approximately 10 years. I did the books, so I knew this place inside and out. I've been on chamber committees. I've been on the Library Foundation Board. I'm currently PEO secretary. I belong to Rotary Club, where we do projects to support this community. That's providing leadership and doing, besides talking about it. Yes, there's always planning and there's inspiration. However, I think doing is the most important thing. And being able to collaborate with people, get along with people, and support each other's vision. There are many things that we've talked about tonight that I believe are already happening in our community. We just need to plug people in. And if you don't know where to plug in, again, talk to a city council member, talk to myself, talk to a school board member, talk to an administrator, talk to committee members of the city, because there are lots of places that you can plug in. One of the things that I helped create a couple years ago, some challenging things happened here in Fairfield. And I got a call that said, our school employees and our staff and our students are getting a lot of support, but we have lots of people in the community that need help. So I had called a friend who called a friend who called many friends, and we got together and we formed a group called Jefferson County Mental Health and Alliance Wellness. The whole idea of this was to support our community, try to find out where the gaps were and how we could help. And there is a focus on students, particularly at the, I would say, at the middle school, high school level. Yes, we need it at all levels. And I think this is a group that's just getting started, but they're starting to be at school events. We created little stickers for kids to put on their computers, magnets with phone numbers where they can call and get support. Because if we have healthy mental health people at student level that grow up to be good, mentally health strong people and good brain health as adults, we'll be far, far ahead.
Thank you. And now we're going to do our closing statements. You each have 3 minutes. So this time we're going to start with Mayor Boyer.
So I think I pretty much mentioned several things. Again, I just want to say thank you for supporting me in the last 4 years. Again, it's certainly been an honor and a privilege. So some of the things that I also would like to see accomplished in the next couple of years and beyond, including improved city emergency services, or preparedness, I should say, for safety and continuity of services, creating a volunteer management plan as part of that emergency preparedness. If we had a major disaster here and had 1,000 people show up on our doorstep, what would we do? So that plan needs to be written. We're going to have some retirements within our city departments, and we need to be prepared to have that transition. The previous city administrator and I engaged Alliant Energy to do a solar project on city ground. And that is they've given us a contract to review that contract. We're looking at that now. We wanted to do 10 acres that would basically cover and make the city government, not the whole city of Fairfield, but the city government net zero as far as emissions. Alliant wants to start with 6 acres. Okay, we'll take that with the ability to grow on top of that. So that's in development. We have some city parking lots that need some attention. And one of those I think will get done in this next year. I'd like us to work on a Keep Iowa Beautiful paint campaign. That's going to take some volunteers. I'd like to reimagine and redo those public restrooms that are downtown. That's important for our vibrancy of our downtown and tourism. I think we need some planning for our downtown. We need to inspire people. I think our downtown lacks a little bit right now. We've got some unusual boutique businesses, which is wonderful. We need more of them. So how do we do that? How can we help somebody start a business? I think one of the issues is some of our downtown storefronts are pretty big, so the rents are large. So how can we figure out how to do that? Are there other businesses in other towns that are successful and would like to expand? Could we invite one of those businesses here? So that's going to take some planning. We need to maintain our reserves. Right now we're about 35% of our budget, so that's good for financial stability of the city. We need to continue to have that good reserve. And I look forward to improving any city, county, and school communication and supporting each other. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again for your support.
Ed?
Closing?
Closing statements, yes.
I see this as kind of like when our nation was founded, in a way. And that was a pivotal moment in history. And fortunately, some very intelligent and dedicated individuals came forth and had certain realizations in terms of the divine nature of man. And Thomas Jefferson talked about inalienable rights, that these rights came from God. They didn't come from a government. And then they designed a government that it was an attempting to give the power to the individuals and to their local communities. And that actually worked quite well. There was what's called a 5,000-year leap that happened in our country when there was no income taxes, by the way. That was brought on later because the people were free they accepted their liberty and they took care of each other. Read de Tocqueville, right, when it's called Democracy in America. There were civil agencies that handled everything. There was very little government at all, but there was a massive expanse in the growth of our country. And so anyway, all of that, in my opinion, has led us to today. And we have an opportunity. We have a tremendous opportunity. And I don't know who has a better opportunity than Fairfield, Iowa. I really don't think there is anyone. And I think that, and you could even say that because we are in the heart of America, in Jefferson County, Iowa, that we have a duty. We have a duty. And if we embrace that opportunity, that reality of self-government, there's literally nothing that we cannot do. We can design a world-class educational system for our kids. We can make living here to be something that is so full of purpose and life that we serve as an example to other communities throughout the world. We can save the university so it doesn't go down the route of Parsons College, which was a tragedy. So we can stop that. We can become a Mecca. We can become a Mecca where people will come here for many, many reasons to see what an example of a community can be. And then we can have expanded tourism that prospers us all. We have a great opportunity. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you. Let's give both candidates a round of applause. They will both be around out in the lobby for questions while we set up for the City Council forum.
If there is an empty chair next to you, please scoot over and make a new friend. We're going to have some more people coming in, and I would like to see all of the chairs full before we add some more. And if you are a City Council,
I think we'll get started because we've got several candidates for school board. Good evening and welcome. Oh, I gotta put some glasses on. Good evening and welcome to the Fairfield Area Chamber of Commerce Meet the Candidates Forum. This event is free and open to the public thanks to our presenting sponsor, Freeman Kevin Eads Law Firm. Thank you for Fairfield Media Center for live streaming our event. Thank you for supporting this event. My name is Joe Ledger, and I am your moderator for this evening. I am part of this year's Leadership Fairfield class and have been on the Farm Bureau Board for over 20 years. This is not a debate. While we understand that policies can make people passionate, we expect this to be a civil and respectful event. No shouting from the audience. Hold your applause until the end of each section. Candidates are limited to 3 minutes per question. There will be signs letting them know the 1 minute, the 30-second mark, and when to stop. I will stop you when the time is up. Our timekeeper is Joanna Jackman tonight, sitting here in the front row. This hour is dedicated to the City Council. Running for the at-large seat is Elizabeth Estee and Addie Pomasai.
Yes.
Good. And running for the 4th Ward are Matthew Rowe and Curtis Oliver. Let's start by having each of you introduce yourself and tell us why you are running. And the first one tonight will be Elizabeth.
Good evening. First of all, I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event and for the sponsors. I didn't get to do this the first time that I ran, so there's the silver lining for running again. My name is Elizabeth Estee. I was recently serving the City Council. I was representing the 4th Ward. I had the opportunity to move into a larger home, my family and I, and so unfortunately it meant that I had to vacate my seat so it could be up in the general election. I originally ran for City Council because I love Fairfield. I am a mother to 2 children in the public school. I am the Assistant Jefferson County Attorney. I believe that I bring a unique perspective to the City Council as a working mother and through my work with the county. Also, I left Fairfield and I came back to raise my family. I know the wonderful benefits that Fairfield offers, the cost of living and the quality of life, and those are things that attracted me back to Fairfield. I know, though, through my work on City Council and my work through the county, that there are very real challenges that people in Fairfield face. I think that it's important that we think about housing, we're thinking about poverty, we're thinking about weighty issues that maybe we can't fix on City Council, but they should be our lodestars when we're thinking about policies that we're enacting and ordinances that we're thinking about passing. I also feel very strongly that public engagement is very, very important. Certainly when I was serving on City Council, that was one of the most rewarding periods, obviously very challenging too if you're getting calls from citizens who are really upset about things that are happening on City Council. But I think that there are certainly times when we all came together and we were able to collaborate. I also want to continue with the work on the housing task force that was started with City Council. I know Mayor Boyer addressed that. And I also think that it's very important to address our downtown. Prior to vacating my seat on the 4th Ward, I started a group of individuals on city government and citizens of the Fairfield community to talk about addressing our downtown needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Next one will be Addie.
All right.
Go ahead.
All right. Well, I wish there were additional at-large seats so that you could vote for both Elizabeth and I. But unfortunately, we just have 2, and I want to wish her the very best. I have 3 things. The reason why I'm running for City Council. And the first one is, I've heard it over and over again, but I genuinely and deeply love Fairfield, Iowa. My family moved here in July of this past year, where I have become the great privilege of being of service as the high school principal. Immediately, the level of engagement and connections and the opportunities in this community are extraordinary, but especially the potential for our young people that I get to work with every single day. I am unabashed about my love for Fairfield, my praise of Fairfield, and actively use Fairfield as our community to recruit and retain extraordinary people to come to Fairfield and make this what it already is, and even more special. People are kind, caring, devoted. I heard about generosity, but also action-oriented. So being part of that is being of service, being there. I have met so many leaders, both in business and industry in our community, at the university, at the district level, the county level. And it appears to me, working through this, is that we have such great services within those areas, but there is a sense of silo and disconnect. So I've been on those committees and wonder, where is the school district? Where is the county? And where are the businesses? And so I would like to see a greater collaboration. And the only way you can do that is to serve, to be at the seat. So I think it's important too, being the high school principal and part of the district leadership team in our community, leadership matters, and you have to be there and you have to engage. And so that's another reason. Last one is collaboration. I am deeply passionate about not only service to our youth, but deeply passionate about bringing people together. I love the things that Ed said about the potential of our youth, but same thing with what Connie said, is that there are extraordinary history and opportunities and people are doing things. I think I bring an opportunity where I know such a wide variety in the cross-section of our community. I can be that ambassador and that bridge to bring people together so that we have shared values, shared responsibility, and most importantly, shared opportunities. And then lastly, my family. We love Fairfield, Iowa. My wife is an elementary music teacher. In fact, she's teaching at all 3 schools this year. I have a young child who's a 3rd grader, and then my older children as well. So we deeply care about Fairfield and just want to give.
Thank you. Matthew?
All right. I want to thank you all for coming out here. I know everyone in this room probably understands it, but for our government to work, it really requires everyone paying attention, taking part in the political process, and getting out to vote. So you're all doing a wonderful service just by sitting here tonight, and it means a lot. My name is Matthew Rowe. I'm a TM teacher, and I work as an IT consultant here in town. We help small businesses that are too small to have their own in-house IT. And the Ward 4, the seat I'm running for, is really the heart of town. And I want to say that, you know, it's the home of the city government. It's the home of many of the churches and the small businesses in town. Our art walk happens there. You know, the farmers market happens there. And so as goes Ward 4, so goes the rest of town. And that's why we need a strong, resilient, and prudent voice on the City Council. I wanted to talk to you about 2 of my platform issues while up here. The first is the budget. The City Council has approved for this current fiscal year we're in a deficit of $443,000. It's almost $500,000. And that's coming out. We can't print money like the federal government. So all of that comes out of 2 places: a general fund, which is not an endless reserve, and the local optional sales tax, or lost account. And the lost account is earmarked for other things. So we really need to get the budget under control. The city can't operate in the way it is right now for very long. We need people who are willing to make the hard decisions that heretofore have not really been made. The second thing I want to talk about was transparency in government and communication. I consider myself quite involved in local politics. I do door knocking for local candidates. I talk with members of the city council, and I find that often I hear about things happening in the city, legislation being passed, decisions being made, almost as gossip or rumors after they've already occurred. There needs to be stronger communication with the people of Fairfield on exactly what's going on and what's happening. And so I'd like to see the city put forward some sort of newsletter. But I'd also like to see the members of the city council be very open and transparent. And so as a city council member, I can assure you that I will be at local places publicly on a regular basis where people can come and talk to me about issues. And finally, talking to the city council is not as easy as it should be. You have to sign up a week before the meeting starts, before the agenda is even offered. So that needs to change. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Curtis?
Hello, I'm Curtis Oliver. It's a real honor to be in front of you this evening. I am a 7-year resident of Fairfield. The majority of that time has been spent in the city's 4th Ward. I apologize if I look like I walked off the set of Red Green. This is dressed up to me, so. But anyway, I would just like to explain sort of my relationship to this city. I'm a local contractor. I've been a bartender. I've managed certain establishments in this town. So you've probably seen me in one capacity or another. As a contractor, I've been in and out of people's homes and businesses in this town and sort of have a unique perspective that maybe we don't necessarily see when we're talking about the numbers and the percentages. And so to that regard, housing is something I'm definitely interested in improving, and I already see efforts are being made to improve that, so I would like to aid in that effort. So that's primarily why I'm running for city council. Also, improving our downtown is a huge issue for me because we have sister cities, local cities to us that didn't focus on that quite so well, and then they had to make the reparations later. They had to reinforce their downtown decades down the line. I would like to take care of that before we reach that stage. I would really like to see our square not have empty buildings on it or buildings that are dilapidated. So that is a major issue for me as far as that goes. As far as why I'm here at this time of life, I guess I'm looking around the room and I'm seeing not very many people my age. And I think that's an issue, and I think that's something that I could help in improving by being a member of the city council, by being a transparent and let's say relevant voice to the people of my generation. And this isn't going to take 3 minutes to tell you everything about me because I'm a pretty simple person, so I really appreciate your letting me speak to you this evening.
Thank you. First question will be directed to Addie. What qualifications do you have and what skills will you bring to the position?
Lots of experience in leadership, both at the school level as well as the citywide level and even at the state level. The qualities that I would bring first and foremost is to be really engaged, to be present, to be a good listener. Like I said, mentioning that my ability to connect with a diverse group of citizenry, it takes time. It takes building relationships, and I think that's one of the greatest strengths that I can bring, and I've already done that in the short time that I've been here. The next one, in terms of that experience, is having served both in the Ames city level, committee level, as well as West Des Moines and the Leadership Academy, the governor's workforce development. Being at the table and bringing in a voice and unique perspective to bring people together is one of those most enjoyable things that I do, and I do that on a daily basis at the school level. And then lastly is that I generally believe that the future of Fairfield, Iowa is just so extraordinary. And having the connections to our youth, the ability to recruit and offer a promise and to retain that youth to come back home is something that we're on the cusp of. And so I think I have to bring that to the table as well.
Thank you. Matthew?
Thank you very much. I've got a degree in mathematics and computer science, and I've always found a fascination in solving large and difficult and sometimes seemingly intractable problems, so that's definitely an advantage. I grew up here in town. I know a lot of people in the community, and I've heard a lot of stories about what people are struggling with, and I share a lot of those concerns. So I would say that the things I bring to the table to the greatest degree would be a connection to the community, an ability to listen and understand the problems and solve them while taking all of the opinions into account, and some experience, at least amateurishly, in the political field already. That'll be all.
Thank you. Let's go to Curtis.
As far as qualifications go, I'd say a lifetime of customer service. Speaking to people every day, and it's taught me a great deal of, I would say, patience and understanding. My primary role as a city council member would be listening and responding. And that's what I've done all my life with every role that I've entertained. As far as skills go, as a contractor, I have had to come up with some pretty unique solutions to some pretty unique problems. And I would like to apply that skill here if possible. As doing renovations, sometimes you have to know what needs to stay, what needs to be fixed, and what needs to go entirely. And I would like to, as I said, apply that skill.
Thank you. Elizabeth?
I love solving problems, and sometimes there are problems that you can't solve, but I believe that through listening to people and engaging with them, you can go a really long way. I want to represent the people of Fairfield. I'm not coming to this position, and I didn't previously come to this position with a specific agenda in mind. I appreciate that it's a non-political position, because I think that means that I get to talk to everyone, and we're all just coming from a place of wanting to make our city better. Although I know that there are challenges that Fairfield faces, and I addressed some of them in my introduction. So it's not to say that I don't recognize that there are challenges. It's just that I'm not coming to this position with something that I feel like I'm trying to get done. I believe that my work previously, obviously on City Council, helps me, and my experience currently with the Jefferson County Attorney's Office as the Assistant County Attorney allows me to also see some of the challenges that the county is facing, and I do believe that that supports my work on City Council.
Thank you. Okay, I'm lost. What are your top 3 priorities if elected? Matthew?
Yeah, so priorities in no particular order would absolutely be getting making sure that Fairfield stays a safe and wholesome community, especially for people who are just growing up. I know that we have a police department that is somewhat chronically underfunded and understaffed, and that needs to be addressed. I'd also like to address the budget, as I mentioned in my introduction. There are a lot of places where the city can shore up the borders of the budget. There are properties that the city government has been renting out for free or almost free for a long time. There are places where we've not negotiated very well, in my opinion, with the county. And so I do think that there's a lot of room for improvement there without damaging any of the services we know and love. And then transparency in the government as well. Ultimately, city government can't predict what problems will face us years down the line, but whatever happens, it's important that everyone here is part of the discussion. And so the more transparent the city government can be, and the more open it is to getting input from all of you, the better. And it's important to get that in place long before any of those problems arise.
Thank you. Curtis?
Yeah, so the top three for me, you've heard the word many times this evening, is housing. We've heard from our mayor and a couple others this evening that there are already initiatives in place that are in line to encourage our current housing situation. Speaking chiefly as somebody my age and for people my age, our huge issue right now, as far as I'm concerned, is rental properties that are really just not up to snuff. And I don't want to bite off more than we can chew by expanding our city, but not taking care of those issues first. So that's a primary issue for me. The secondary issue, which is very much related, is our downtown. If we have empty buildings sitting on our square for any length of time, and sometimes for years at a time, that's something that needs to be addressed, because people that come to our city come for its uniqueness, its variety, and if they see it, half the square is dead and empty, they're not going to stay here. So I would like to do something about that. I have no really clear ideas, but one would be offering incentives to people who have rental properties if they are either unable to rent them or choose not to rent them for whatever reason, offering them incentives to sell them perhaps, or, you know, it's just an idea. But the third option, or the third item on the agenda for me would be, you've heard also the word transparency, but before I even got up this evening, I looked at our city's website to look at the last time the minutes were published, and it looks like it's February of this year. And yes, we do publish the agenda ahead of time, which is fantastic. It gives people an opportunity to prepare and sign up to speak. But also, we need to address things after the fact. We need to know that people can look up the minutes after the meeting and have an idea of what happened. So those are the three big issues for me.
Elizabeth?
Well, I'm going to be parroting a lot of what Curtis just said. I think the first issue that we have to address, obviously, is housing. I think that there are a number of ways that the city is working to address and will be successful in doing that. Not only incentivizing people and educating people about like the property maintenance code and educating landlords about what their legal obligations are to their tenants, but also, as Connie mentioned earlier, educating people about grants that exist and low-interest loans that exist for homeowners that are struggling to fix up their properties. When we did our housing study, we found out that the majority of the housing in Fairfield was built, I believe, before 1950. So a lot of our houses, not only do we not have enough of them, but the quality is in disrepair. And so I think that there are ways that we need to address housing. And I share Curtis's concerns about some of the issues that tenants are facing here in town. I got a lot of calls from tenants who were living in pretty terrible conditions, and we have laws and that landlords have to be keeping up the properties to a certain extent, but we need to address our inspections and make sure that landlords are doing what they're legally obligated to do. Also, our downtown, as I mentioned in my intro, before I left my council seat on the 4th Ward, I had started a group with fellow council members, our city administrator, Terry Baker from the Fairfield Visitors Bureau, and we had a citizen there as well as Josh Larrabee from FIDA. And we had one meeting and we just talked about what we've envisioned for our downtown. And I think that an important factor we need to consider is what we want it to look like, what we want it to look like for visitors. Do we want to incentivize retail, and how do we go about doing that? Could we perhaps put art up in vacant windows in the square? How are we going to address our public restroom that is never open? People will need sometimes. So I want to continue that work. But another issue, and I think that it's come up quite a bit this evening, is public engagement. I think it's really, really important to have the public engaged in our city council meetings and our subcommittee meetings. We post our agendas, and everything is open. There is transparency by law. We have open meetings laws, so people can attend them and they can view those videos on YouTube. But I think that people still just aren't knowing what's going to be coming up on city council. So I'd like to address ways that we can get information out to the public.
Thank you. Addie?
Yes, sir. So 3 guiding principles that I want to make a priority but then become actionable is around the concepts of shared vision for the entire city, that both not only in terms of the vision of the city, but very near soon, we're going to have new leadership at the school board level, at the district level, and bringing that shared vision together in terms of both information, recruitment, retention, and opportunity, because the quality of the educational experience in our schools is foundational to so many things. And so that's really, really important that we bring that. And then the other one is understanding that shared responsibility, and lastly, shared resources. I will give you an example where these 3 guiding principles can be really effective, and that's specifically to the housing. There's no question that Fairfield lacks affordable housing. I know that firsthand a year ago when it took us, we were so lucky to find the home that we had when it had, but we had to make that offer within 24 hours and be ready to go. I have colleagues right now that I've recruited that are trying to buy a home in Fairfield and can't because they don't have it within that range. And so, for example, in affordable housing, we need to do some of the areas like what we did in Des Moines when I led a regional academy, and we raised $3 million in 6 months and built a skilled trades academy at downtown Des Moines. And the purpose of that was to provide not only skilled labor, but quality labor, but then actually improve the housing. And so recruitment and retention of young people. I did that in the neighboring community in Ottumwa when we bought a lot near the school. And it was our school that built a $250,000 beautiful home, 3-bedroom, 2-car garage, and now we're building more. That's an example where we could have shared responsibility, shared resources, and make it a reality. And then lastly is, within that study, that housing, there are 2,200 people on a daily basis who commute to Fairfield, Iowa. 10%, if we were able to retain that by providing quality housing, great educational experience, expanding free 3- and 4-year-old preschool that we've lost so many to families and kids to other surrounding communities, if we just took that number and were to capture 10%, you would see extraordinary changes that would improve not only the tax base, improve the budgets, both for the city as well as the school district. That is a missed opportunity, and we can capture that. And so that's just an example of shared vision, shared responsibility, shared resources to do something very pragmatic and doable for our community. So I'd love to be part of that solution.
Thank you. The next question, how would you attract more business and investment to the city? And we'll start with Curtis this time.
Yeah, I actually mentioned it in my previous statement that providing incentives to property owners who are leasing properties, renting properties out. Right now we have several empty buildings on the square, and we can't draw people here unless we have that availability, or if we present that diversity or that uniqueness that the city is so known for. People come here for a reason, and I think that we should lean into that strength, and by doing so, the appropriate businesses will come here. But we have to make those places available to them, and that's my primary response to that.
Thank you. Matthew?
Yeah, so it's a tough question to answer because the fact is, we all know businesses around the country are having trouble due to policies at the federal level, the state level, and the local level. We're entering a difficult time with inflation, with the job crisis. Even it could be argued that the situation at the southern border is contributing to that. But there are opportunities. I think at the local level, certainly, one issue that can always be addressed is reducing regulation and encouraging people to start new businesses. I would potentially like to see, and we don't have time to go into the math now, but there is a scheme that I've been thinking about and would like to talk to some experts about small forgivable business loans to encourage business growth. The second thing is, of course, the changing landscape of technology. We all know that working from home is becoming a more and more popular trend across the country. And so people who used to be stuck in large cities are now moving to small towns. If we can attract people from those businesses here, it will siphon money in many ways from the big cities and bring them to our community. They'll be paid by the businesses in large cities, and they'll then spend that money they're paid in our own local community. And so we need to make ourselves as open and welcoming, I think, to that new phenomenon as possible. There are a couple different ways to do that, but people are always looking for nice, safe, comfortable communities in the middle of the country to move to, and our city definitely can fit that role if we lean into it.
Thank you. Elizabeth?
Well,
Would you
I'm really proud of Fairfield's entrepreneurial spirit. I think that's one of our strengths, and it's always exciting when a new business starts here in Fairfield. Which is to say, too, that there are ways that we could probably incentivize businesses and more businesses to be built here. And I think that the issue is twofold, too, when it comes to the workforce. Not only making our town desirable for the people who are growing up here to stay here, so retaining people, but then also attracting people to our town. As I mentioned in my introduction, I am one of those people who grew up in Fairfield. I left for a number of years, and then I came back to raise my family. So I know how attractive Fairfield is and some of the really wonderful characteristics that Fairfield offers that are unique. But I do think that working towards incentivizing more retail and helping our restaurants that are open here. I mean, there are some issues that we have with, restaurants and entertainment. I know that we did, I can't remember what it was, but it's something in City Council where we were asking people what they wanted to see in Fairfield, and a sports bar was like really, really high up there on the list. And so things like that and entertainment, and I know that there are a lot of dedicated people who are working on getting more restaurants in town and making sure, like I know Terry at the Visitors Bureau is always trying to make sure that there are enough events on the square and in the town. So I think things like that, but I also agree that I believe that working on our downtown is another way to not only attract visitors here, but then once we get visitors here, then they see some of the other characteristics that Fairfield has to offer that maybe aren't as obvious, and hopefully then they stay here.
Thank you. Addie?
First of all, what exists in Fairfield is extraordinary. And that's one of the things that I've learned here is from small businesses to very large businesses, the diversity between all of that, everything ranging from young entrepreneurs that want to create sustainable, a good quality, not only in terms of energy, but food. And then you have, the Cambridge in the top of their financial, all the way to agro-industrial plastics and traffics and wheat and companies at the industrial base. Extraordinary for a community this size. We need to help those businesses and industries, one, to not only be sustainable and continue to grow, but attract, recruit, and retain exceptional talent. And it starts right here with our own children. With all due respect, I work with these kids every single day. Kids want to work. They just work differently. They crave community. They crave connection. And you are absolutely right, the trend, okay, we're part of that trend, is moving away. When you can get anywhere in here, the intangibles of our community, we need to sell that. Not only you save years in your life for not being in a car to commute, all right, but the affordableness of living in a community like this and the diversity. Kids crave it. I know for a fact that if I could scholarship every single kid, I got kids in finance right now, they're going away. If we did that in skilled trades, if we did that in any field of internships and apprenticeships, and then make a commitment to those kids, I call them blue chippers, and most of them want to be teachers. I want to have a collaboration where those kids, I'm going to recruit them if like they were 5-star athletes to come home and be teachers, all right? And we can solve that. That's an example. We have to do that for our current business and industry, and then become a model not only for our region, but also for the nation of how to revitalize rural America. And so that's one example. Another aspect is really important, and I shared about this, is that shared vision. The business and industries, okay, they are consistently at the table. These extraordinary leaders are clamoring for us to collaborate. In fact, they've expressed frustration. And now what we have is opportunities. The opportunity is these individuals are now running for city council, they're running for school board, and we need to capitalize on that leadership capacity. And having that shared vision, shared responsibility, shared engagement, leadership is going to matter. And Fairfield is right there on November 7th of having extraordinary leadership change and making a big difference for our community.
Thank you. Next question. What do you think is the city's biggest strength? And we'll start with Elizabeth.
Well, you know, Adi just mentioned diversity, and I would say that our city is incredibly diverse. We have political diversity, we have economic diversity, racial diversity. I'm incredibly proud of how diverse our city is. I'm also very proud of our, as I mentioned, the entrepreneurial spirit that that's reflected here in Fairfield. I'm also just so impressed with all the candidates here tonight and everybody's desire to be involved in politics and our local politics and caring so much about our city. I'm always really humbled and overwhelmed by all the people who are working to make our city and our county better, and I work with them every single day. When I was working on city council, I really enjoyed everybody that I got to know in our city government. They're all dedicated civil servants, and they have so much knowledge, and they are really there for the citizens of Fairfield.
Thank you. Addie?
I started with the love for Fairfield and why I love Fairfield, and that is its people. At the very heart of Fairfield is not only in terms of entrepreneurship, growth, and opportunity, it's generosity. This is an extraordinary, generous, and diverse community that if we are able to pull together, I believe we're going to do and have done extraordinary things. So I think that's the greatest gift about our community. And we don't tell our story well enough. You know, sadly, we have been, you know, one of the reasons people ask me is like, why Fairfield? My God, there's just all kinds of, no, come here, live it, be amongst the people. And there is a greater headline for this community. And we need to pull together, be resilient, grow together, support one another, and share this extraordinary place to raise your children, to bring your businesses, to grow yourself, and to be sustained. Now, sustain means to not only be healthy, but well and content. That's what our young people need the most. And Fairfield can be that place. And so I think those are our greatest strengths that we have to offer our citizens, as well as be a model for others.
Thank you. We're going to do another question, so you two don't get off very easy.
Great.
Do you think our main downtown is healthy and successful? If not, what would you do to change that? And we're going to start with Matthew.
Our downtown has a lot of potential, and it's got a lot of history in it. But there has been a recent trend of storefronts going empty, as has been mentioned tonight, and not being filled up again very quickly. And frankly, that trend is not just happening here in Fairfield, it is happening across the country. It's not an easy problem to solve either. You know, these big nationwide issues, they affect everyone, and lots of towns are trying different things, and not many of them are succeeding. But there are definitely some towns that are having better luck than others. And I think, you know, we need to take a good hard look at what a town square looks like in the 21st century, a place for the community to come together. You know, a lot of people don't need that central place to go shopping because they've got a Walmart on the edge of town that has anything you could find in a small store on the square and more. And so it has to be more about community. It has to be about community. It has to be about coming together. It has to be about having time to be in person with one another. And that sort of long-term plan is going to take input from everyone to accomplish.
Thank you. Curtis?
I'd say our downtown is not significantly less healthy than a lot of our neighboring cities. I would say, as you've heard before, potential. It has a lot of potential. I definitely agree that community is what we should focus on when it comes to our downtown. But we can't do that until we can fill those empty buildings. We can't do that until we can maintain buildings that are falling apart. We need to incentivize businesses, or rather property owners, to either sell or rent out those properties, or offer incentives to businesses to come and fill those vacant spaces. Until we do that, I can't really truly say that we have a healthy downtown. We do have what I would say is a beautiful social and cultural hub. There are a few businesses there that pull a lot of the heavy lifting, but I think we could do a lot better, and I think we do that by incentivizing businesses to come here. So.
Thank you. Due to time constraints, we're going to move into the closing statements, and we're going to start off with Curtis.
Oh my. Well, I really appreciate the opportunity to speak before you all today. If elected, I will do my best to serve each and every one of you. I know that a lot of you who know me might not suspect I would agree with you on many things, but that's not what this is about. This is about public service. This is about me representing each and every one of you. That includes the least of you and the most of you. And I just can't wait to see what happens after the 7th. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Matthew?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I want to thank you all once again for coming out. It really means a lot. This race is interesting, and of course our city is at somewhat of an inflection point. 5 seats on both the school board and the city council being up means the direction of the city can change dramatically after November 7th, for better or worse. And so voting in this election is going to mean a lot. I want to make sure that our town stays healthy and vital in the changing times ahead. As the world and the country change, we have to make sure that we are self-reliant and resilient, and that the people of Fairfield maintain an eye on what's most important, on the good and the beautiful and the just. And I think we can definitely do that if we come together. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you all again for being here. I want to point out that, again, you can't lose. There are 4 candidates here, and I have the utmost respect for Mr. Pamvisai. I think that we all bring different perspectives and levels of experience and knowledge about city government and its limits. It does have limits, unfortunately. It can't solve all the problems in the world. But I have spoken a lot about public engagement, and I think that it's a privilege to vote, and that's the first step in engaging in your city government. Again, I think that it's really important moving forward to work on increased public engagement with the city. It's something that's come up time and time again this evening. And I think that reaching out to the citizens and letting you know what's going to be on the agenda, letting you know how to speak with your council members, even though it's posted and it's online, I think it's really important to address how everyone can be informed and feel like they have a voice, because I've heard people speak this evening saying that they felt like they didn't know what was happening. They didn't feel like they had a voice. And I really want to represent everybody. I think that the at-large position gives me a unique opportunity to represent the entire town, and I want to continue to serve everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Addie?
I too, Elizabeth, have tremendous respect for you and appreciate your service to our city. And so I wish we could serve together, and perhaps there may be an opportunity in the future. Adi Pomvisai, it is not a common name, especially perhaps maybe after a year here in Fairfield, Iowa. But in 1979, I was a refugee to this great and extraordinary place called the United States of America. We were brought in to a small town in Alta, Iowa, where it was the community, the whole community, not just the school system, but the churches, the city. Everyone was involved to raise the Pomvisai family, to make us who we are. 44 years later, I'm here in Fairfield, Iowa, and this is where we want to be. And I know that through community, through service, through giving, through partnerships, through working together, we can do extraordinary things. And that's the other thing, is I'm committed to Fairfield, Iowa. This is where I want not only to have my family, my home, but where I retire and where I continue to give and give back, because that's what it takes, is service and community. And so I feel very blessed. I want to thank everyone here for being here tonight and those who aren't here. And I too agree with the candidates up here. The future of Fairfield, we are on the precipice of doing something extraordinary together. And so I ask for your vote and support on November 7th. And thank you very much for being engaged.
Thank you. Now, I just got orders from headquarters. We still got some time. So I'm going to ask one more question. I know I'm messing things up, but please bear with me, okay? How do you plan to involve residents in the decision-making process in our town? I'm sure you've all addressed it a time or two, but this is another question. And let's start with Matthew.
All right. Well, I've talked about it more than once, but just to go over the plan once again, I think that our city needs to have regular communication where we're reaching out more to residents. And that means I'd like to see something along the lines of a regular newsletter or press release emailed out to people who are interested at least once a month, so that you know exactly what the city council is working on, what's been passed recently, what's likely to be looked at in the future. And then I also think that we need regular meet and greets or opportunities for you to find a place where you can talk to the city council members. I know that I'm intending to, on occasion, be somewhere in the ward, say Paradiso, or maybe rent out a room at the library where people can come and talk freely in a more casual setting than a city hall about what's on their mind. And I also wanted to talk a little bit about the meeting, the way that people talk at meetings. You know, you have to sign up, in case anyone here hasn't talked at city council before. The meetings are on a Monday. In order to talk, you have to sign up by the prior Thursday. It's almost a week in advance. The agenda for the meetings is not published officially until Friday, the day after you sign up. That seems ridiculous, right? You don't even know what you're going to be talking about when you sign up to talk at a meeting. So that rule, I think, should just be done away with. Even if you sign up 5 minutes before the meeting starts, you have a right to have your voice heard. And And I don't see any real downside other than more people talking at City Council to implement that sort of change.
Thank you. Let's move to Curtis.
I think anybody who's worked in customer service can tell you that you can't just make something available to someone, you have to hand it to them. And I think that's, Mr. Rowe had some great points to that effect. You have to make it extremely available. And as I said earlier, the minutes haven't been published since February of this year, at least as far as what I could tell on the city's website. And that's if you look at the city's website, but most people won't. Making it more public, I think the city needs to, they're doing a great job right now, and they're improving on it. We need to engage with social media a little bit more, because people primarily my age, for example, that's where they get their news, that's where they get all their local information. We could do a better job at that, I think. And whether that means allocating more funds or forming more committees, I think we could do a lot to that regard.
Thank you. Addie? Adi, I'm sorry, I've called it wrong. Is it Adi?
Adi, yes.
Adi, I
That is
apologize.
fine. No problem at all.
I think you knew who I was referring to.
Yes, sir. I said in my opening too is be present, be engaged, be there, build those relationships. You have to be with the people, and not only in terms of formal structures, but also informal. And so that's really, really important, not only in terms of school leadership, but city leadership, is having leaders who are present within our community and being willing to listen to diverse voices and opinions and passions, and then seek common ground and to solve problems. And I think that's the most important thing, is not only in terms of transparency, but that builds trust, but it also increases the speed of effectiveness. Because you can have the greatest plan, all right? You can pay high consultants to develop that plan, but if you have zero trust, because you don't have the relationships, that plan yields nothing. But when we have high trust, high relationships with a great plan, it accelerates it. And I think that's what's really, really important in any leadership position, but especially city council and school board and so many other things that are right before us. And so both formal as well as informal. Shared agendas. We should have opportunities where city council and school board, county interact, where there is a possibility for us to collaborate and share information and share resources or joint ventures. We should be at the table. And so I think those things are really, really important.
Thank you. Elizabeth?
Well, I'm going to sound like a broken record here again. Okay. I'll say something new. I'll give you an example of public engagement that really worked well. I'm going to talk about this. It was kind of controversial at the time, and many of you may have strong feelings about the fence ordinance. But we did have a subcommittee meeting with the property committee, excuse me, that I was on at the time. And we had a number of people from the community come and speak about the fence ordinance. And they were concerned because they were gardeners, they wanted to be able to have fencing in their front yards for gardening during the summer, temporary fencing, which our fence ordinance didn't allow at the time. And we came up with a compromise with seasonal fencing. And the point is that having the public engaged, now everybody who walked away, it was a compromise, so no one was, jumping up in the air with glee. It wasn't like everyone was super pumped about everything that we agreed on that night, but people got what they wanted. And we did it by having a dialogue and a conversation about it and understanding what was at the root of the request from people who were concerned, and then what the city's perspective was. And so again, having that public engagement was really beneficial. Now, not every resident knows that they can come to those committee meetings, and they don't always know what's going to be on the agenda, and I think that's where we can improve. And maybe it's through social media, or maybe, there's an app for that. I honestly don't know, but that's something that I think that we should continue to explore and work on.
Thank you. Let's give them a round of applause again. the candidates will be around if you want to ask them questions while we get set up for the school board. Please take your seats. Let's get started here. Good evening, and welcome to the Fairfield Area Chamber of Commerce Meet the Candidates Forum. The event is free and open to the public thanks to our presenting sponsor, Freeman Kevin Eads Law Firm. Thank you for Fairfield Media Center for live streaming our event. Thank you for supporting this event. My name is Joe Ledger, and I am your moderator for this evening. I am part of this year's Leadership Fairfield class and have been on the Farm Bureau Board for over 20 years. This is not a debate. While we understand the politics can make people passionate, we expect this to be a civil and respectable event. No shouting from the audience. Hold your applause until the end of each section. Candidates are limited to 3 minutes per question. There will be signs letting them know the 1 minute and the 30-second mark and when to stop. I will stop you when the time is up. Our timer for tonight is Joanna Jackman, sitting here in the front row. The remainder of the forum is dedicated to the school board candidates. There are 5 open seats. Those running are incumbent Tim Bauer, Teresa Tuvera.
Yes.
Thank you. David Eastburn, Mark Thornton, Christy Kessel, Megan Dowd Robbins, and Nate Wheaton. Since there are so many of you, we only have 3 of you answer each question. The first question is for all of you. Please introduce yourself and tell us why you are running. And through a lottery tonight, we are going to start with Mark Thornton.
All right. First, I want to say thank you to everybody for coming tonight and being involved in this process. And also thanks for the Chamber for putting it on and getting a lot of the public here to hear what we have to say and to get you guys more informed. Like I said, my name is Mark Thornton. My wife and I are graduates of FHS. We moved away when we were in college to Cedar Rapids, but then moved back to Fairfield after we started raising our kids, because we wanted to raise our kids here in the Fairfield district as we were. It's a small community, everybody's involved, and it's a great place to be. So when we moved back, now my kids are, my son's a freshman and my daughter's in 6th grade, so they're actually in the schools and are active, and we just want to continue to grow and encourage the students to continue to do the best that they can while they're here and set them up for their future endeavors wherever that they may be. As the school board goes, we have a lot to attack these next couple years. A lot of it is kind of forward-looking and looking for the vision of what we want to be for our schools. A lot of it has to do with hiring the new superintendent that will be coming on here soon, as well as looking at what we're going to do with our buildings and making a plan for those, as well as looking at our teachers and understanding what their needs are and how do we retain them, and then also how do we continue to attract new and exciting teachers to our district to kind of get a path for them for hopefully their long commitment to our schools. And so I'm just looking forward to being part of this solution and look forward to working with the new board and striving to be the best that we can to make Fairfield a better place for everybody.
Thank you. Let's jump to Christy Kessel.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Not really. There's no light on here. Am I supposed to turn something on? Okay. Okay. My name is Christy Kessel. It's great to see such a good turnout tonight, so thanks to all of you for coming out to listen to us. Our schools are such an important part of our community. I'm very passionate about the community of Fairfield, and it's always been something that I am a big believer in, is getting involved and being a part of our community in any way that I can. So I have 3 children currently. I have a sophomore at the high school, I have an 8th grader at the middle school, and I have a 3rd grader at Pence Elementary. So I'm pretty engaged in the school district and talk to many teachers frequently and hear about some of their challenges that they're facing, and watch board meetings and see some of the issues that our teachers have been frustrated with and our community members have been frustrated with. And so I felt like it was my responsibility to step up and get involved. So I was a graduate of Fairfield in 1996, as was my husband, and I come from several generations of Fairfield graduates. So I've been around Fairfield a long time. I did leave after high school and went to the University of Iowa and got a bachelor's degree there, and relocated to Minneapolis for about 5 years, where I worked for Wells Fargo in the banking industry. And then when my husband and I decided to get married, we wanted to be back closer to our families, who are both still here in Fairfield, and raise our kids here, because we know that it is a great community and it's where we wanted to be. So here we are, and we love it here. We love the people here. We feel so very blessed to be a part of this community and a part of so many wonderful giving people. And I hope that I get the opportunity to give back and do what I can for the betterment of our schools.
Thank you. Teresa?
Good evening. First, I would like to thank all who worked to make this evening possible, and to thank all of you for attending. This is an amazing crowd that we have here. Thank you for the concern for our city and for our schools. My name is Teresa Tavera. I am one of the ER nurses at Jefferson County Health Center. I've been a nurse for 27 years. I'm very passionate about the education of my patients and about the education of every child. Education is power, and it is a key to being successful in any area of our lives. Our children need to know that they are a big part of our hope for the future. What we teach and how we teach it has a strong influence on how each child thinks and acts. And we must focus on student achievement and seek the highest level possible for each student. I'm a mother and a grandmother. My husband and I have raised 3 children, and we have a total of 11 grandchildren. We are a military family, my husband and I with the Army, and my daughter and son-in-law in the Air Force. 12 years of my nursing career has been in travel. I've been a travel nurse, so I've traveled extensively throughout our great nation, and we've even been stationed overseas as well. I've worked with people from different nationalities, races, cultures, and feel that I am able to work with my fellow board members as a team while maintaining my own beliefs and standards. I'm very committed to devoting time and attention for the board meetings, work sessions, the reading and preparation time for this position. Though our community and school district have been through a lot of adversity and hardship, I do believe it is possible to both heal and to thrive together. I'm eager to serve my community and to learn what I need to be an effective and efficient board member and advocate for our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave?
Thanks, Joe. My name is David Eastburn. I'm running for the Fairfield Community School District because I want to serve its teachers, administrators, staff, and students and give them the very best opportunity to succeed. I was born and raised in Fairfield. I graduated from Fairfield High School. My children were educated in the Fairfield Community School District, and they're also graduates of Fairfield High School. And I have a grandchild who's now enrolled in one of the district elementary schools. I've been part of the local community, in a community bank for over 40 years. So I'm deeply planted in this community, and I want to serve its citizens well. I have many years of experience in finance for both profit and nonprofit organizations, and I think I'm uniquely qualified to monitor, evaluate, control, and plan the district's budget and finances. In my military and civilian career, I successfully led in times of crisis and stress, and I know, as well as periods of growth and stability, and I understand how and why organizational cultures change, and I know what an accountable, functional team looks like. I strongly desire to serve my community and the Fairfield Community School District and to be a good steward of the hard-earned resources that the community provides. I looked through the staff directory of our school district one evening. I saw a school district that is frankly in decline. And I looked down the names of those teachers and administrators. A lot of them I know, all of them I respect as professionals. And I strongly believe that they deserve a better opportunity to succeed. And if they succeed, our students will succeed, our school district will succeed, we'll find financial health, and we can attract students back to our community and back to our school district. That's my agenda. That's the only agenda that I have. So I want to thank you for this opportunity, and I strongly believe that I have the capability to serve the school district, its teachers, administrators, staff, and our fellow school board members, and I want to be a part of this success. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Nate.
Good evening. My name's Nate Wheaton. First of all, thank you, Joe, for being here. Thank you to the Chamber. Thank you to all the members in the audience. Thank you to everybody that's up on this stage for participating. I'm here when people ask me the why. I think the base answer for me is I've got a unique perspective in terms of my passion for our kids and the unique ability for our community to come together in time of needed change. And I think I'll start with my family. My wife is from here, graduated just a few years ago from Fairfield High School. I grew up in Cedar Falls, Iowa, so I'm an Iowa kid. Lived in Fairfield over 20 years. Combined, we have 5 kids, 4 of which have graduated successfully through the Fairfield school system. One will graduate in May of this year, so we're excited about that. So from a family perspective, we certainly have deep roots in wanting this district and desire for this district to be successful. As a business person and community leader, I started in my business 5 years ago, and our mission and drive is to find businesses in Fairfield community or in Southeast Iowa and develop them and grow them and make sure that they continue in success of the founders that founded those businesses sometimes 30, 40 years prior to our team coming in and being a part of it. I'm an employer to over 65 families in the local community. You certainly have kids, grandkids in the district, so as a business person, it's not just about the financial responsibility, but it's about the community responsibility that we have to our employees and their families to make sure that our school district is a part of it as we try to attract and retain people into our community as engineers or developers or designers or whatever the case may be as we grow. The Fairfield Community School District is a big part of how we attract and retain. And then the last thing, I have a unique perspective. I've been fortunate to be surrounded for the last 7 years each year by 50 to 60 young high school men who play the sport of football. I'm a volunteer football coach. And so I've been able to really be included and see the inside workings of our school district, but not being necessarily a teacher. So being a coach and being involved in those things has allowed me to see some of the things that we've certainly struggled with on the front end. So I'm here because of those passions, and I look forward to serving the district in that capacity. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Timothy Bauer.
First of all, I want to thank everybody. My name is Tim Bauer. Thank you for the Chamber and the sponsors for putting this event together and this wonderful crowd that we've got here to show so much passion for education in this community. It's very rare that you have crowds like this for these forums, and it's extremely important because all of you make a difference. As I said, my name is Tim Bauer. I'm a graduate of Fairfield High School. I was born and raised in Round Prairie Township in southeast Jefferson County. I have the opportunity currently, fortunately, we moved back to Fairfield 5 years ago, having been here before and then come back. I live in the same home that I was born and raised in. And we were kind of joking about it. Actually, I sleep in the bedroom across the hall. So I'm very fortunate to be back where I was born and raised and glad to be here. Two of our children attended schools in Fairfield before we had to move. We moved away, and they've attended schools in Burlington, Muscatine, out in Ohio, and here in Fairfield. So I've seen a lot of different opportunities of education, and I've seen a lot. I was on the school board in Muscatine for 3 terms before we moved to Fairfield. Then I was asked, since you've got that experience, we really need you here in Fairfield. And so I ran, and so I'm running again. Foundation is the key to our community, it's the key to our state and the nation, and it's kind of taken a turn from that, as we all know. So we need to keep that focus on what we're doing because it's so important. Fairfield Community School District did so many things for me. It's allowed me to see the world, literally. Worked in all around the world, globally, in different locations. Saw what education is and what it can be and what it isn't in some of these areas. And so it's so important to be a part of that. The first thing is we all have to be willing to change. We've had a lot of concerns and issues in this community, but our number one thing in this community is our students. And those are the ones we must focus on. If we want to take that and divert from that, we're just hurting our kids. The others is the employees of our district. We've got to take their list, we got to listen to them, focus on them, and make sure we're pulling all that together. But we all have to do that within the financial constraints that we have, and that's very complex. School finance is not like balancing your checkbook, unfortunately. There's many accounts, there's many buckets that you have to run through. So with my experience, I look forward to bringing that, helping move forward. I've been through 3 superintendent hires before. It's not easy, it takes a lot of work, but it takes a lot of input from all different groups within this community. Listening to the city leaders tonight, and so forth, we all have to work with. And I think it was mentioned, the school district, the school board, the city council, the community, the county board of supervisors all have to be involved, and thank you very much.
Thank you. And Megan Dowd.
Hi, everyone. I am Megan Dowd Robbins. It was nice earlier listening to Adi talk about that trajectory of kids coming back to Fairfield. I was a graduate of Fairfield High School in 1997. I went off to college at Dartmouth and then tried LA for about 8 years. It was great. I learned a lot, had some wonderful experiences there, but decided Fairfield was really home. So I came back home to Fairfield in 2008 and started some businesses. I know see a lot of friendly faces out there from my time as a yoga and fitness instructor at Open Space Studio. Around that same time with my family, I also started an alternative beverage brand called Shakti Kombucha. And then in 2015, we started a new brand of ice cream called Kato. It's a dairy-free alternative to ice cream. So Fairfield is home, and I have 2 kids here now, and they're both in the school district. I have a 4th grader at Pence and a 6th grader at Fairfield Middle School, and I've always been an active member of the community. So currently those activities center around my kids. I'm a volunteer swim coach. We're getting our youth swim team going again. I've recently helped get a playscape established at the Lamson Woods. And prior to my kids attending the public schools, they were at Singing Cedars early childhood program, and I was a board member there for 5 years. So again, Fairfield is where I, have planted roots, and education is very important to me. So when I started to hear some rumblings last year, and I just had a lot of concern and wasn't really sure what was going on, I started looking deeper and asking questions. And I decided it was time to act. And, I think there's a lot of things we can do to pull students back to this district, bring families here. I believe we really need to empower our teachers. And of course, it all comes back to the budget. So definitely looking at a more granular budget and how we can how we can proceed with all of those things interrelated. And again, as everyone's echoed here, it's all about the kids. We want to give them the very best we can. They have one education, and it's important.
Thank you. The first question, what are your top 3 priorities if elected? And we'll start with Christy.
My top 3 priorities, if elected, I would say number 1 is just establishing a good communication amongst our school district, be that with teachers, with students, with community members. I think that it's very important that we all work together and that we all have a shared vision for what our students' futures should look like. I think that we've gotten to a place where, there seems to be a lot of confusion about, things going on with the budget and with things like that. And we just need to get to a better place with more transparency, more information, and really dive in and figure out what our goals are for the future and what we want our schools in Fairfield to look like, and how can we make that happen. And I think we can make that happen by working together and by involving the community in the decisions being made so that people understand what we are doing and why we are doing it and what those reasons are driving the decisions that are being made by the board. My second priority is figuring out our teacher retention situation. I think there's a huge opportunity here to improve on our teacher retention in this district. We have had some amazing teachers leave our district, and it's really been difficult to watch. And I think good teachers are so key to our parents or to our students' experience. And if we have those good teachers, we should do everything in our power to keep them here. And I think we need to focus on hiring teachers who are engaged in our community and people who are willing to stay here and want to be here for the long term. My third priority is to really just get an understanding of our financial position and how we can utilize that best to make things happen in our district. I think, there's been lots of talks about new school buildings and things of that sort, but we really need to understand where we are at and how we can get there. And still be fiscally responsible doing so. So those are my top priorities, and I hope that you all will give me the opportunity to pursue those.
Thank you. Next, Teresa.
Thank you. Some of mine will probably overlap a little bit with Christie's. I put down budget first, and I don't have these in any particular order, and I had actually a whole list of things that would be a priority. But budget, we just passed, my understanding is the school board just passed a new budget system. And getting that in line, getting an understanding of what that means, getting things prioritized in the packages and that kind of a thing, I think will open up some opportunities to find perhaps some waste or some funds that can be allocated into other areas. Maybe then we can look at offering better pay for our teachers or enticing teachers to come. Would also look into like our building question as to what we want to do with the buildings, starting pre-K or preschool in our community, and satisfaction of our teachers, of just benefits and those kinds of things. So the budget is one that I would like to get under my belt. The superintendent search is also a priority. I know with a lot of people, that's something that needs to be looked at and decided on. And I know they've sent out a survey and wanting to be involved in that process. And another one is safety. Safety in our schools, safety in the classroom. That involves also behavioral issues and problems. and just security of our teachers and our students. I think that's paramount to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, David.
Thanks, Joe. I've sort of split mine into long-term and short-term. Certainly, the first item of business has to be our financial health of our district. We have to certainly stabilize our enrollment. The enrollment is a key driver of our revenue streams. And we have to be able to forecast so that we can provide contracts to our teachers and work on teacher retention. After that, I think that the superintendent hire is going to be key. We need someone who can execute and lead a growth strategy and build a culture of trust and transparency in our district. And the third item that I have is a long-term capital plan, or revisit our capital plan to make sure that the community can understand it and support it, and that we can have the facilities that we can be proud of, the community can be proud of, but most importantly, that our teachers can be successful in the classroom and teaching. I think also building a culture of trust in our community with our parents, with our teachers, with our fellow board members, our administration, is going to be a key long-term priority for this board. We have to be able to set a strategic direction of growth for our community and our school district. Right now, what we are doing is managing decline. And I'm not interested in managing decline. I think that we should set an agenda for growth. And even with that, we have to understand that if we aren't successful in that and continue the decline of our school district, where we're heading is consolidation. And that is not going to be good for our community. It's not going to be good for our students. And we need to arrest that and to provide a growth strategy and a superintendent that can lead it and execute it in an environment of transparency and trust.
Thank you. Next question. What attributes and behaviors are essential for school board members? Let's start with Megan.
Definitely being able to listen. I think being able to really reach out and connect with a broad section of the community is important. Sometimes it seems like it's the same people, I think, showing up and getting involved in our schools, and we're not able to reach out and get the rest of the community on board. So I think having that ability to be a connector as a school board member. I think it's also important not to have an agenda, just to really come in and want to serve and put the success of the students first, and to recognize that you're there to kind of govern and oversee, but really you want to empower everybody else, all the the teachers and I guess that's about it.
Okay, thank you. Nate?
Well, I think, the first attribute that's probably the most important amidst everything that's going on is trustworthiness. And I think you have to start, the base level of trustworthiness is humility. And I think it's really important for me to sit in front of all of you and say, I'm excited to serve, I'm honored to serve, but I don't have all the answers. And I think it starts there. You can't gain trust unless you're willing to be humble enough to listen and understand that you don't have all the answers. And so I think that's one of the most key attributes to start, is a base level of trust. Second, I think we've talked about it, financial responsibility is imperative, no matter what organization you're talking about. And I think It's important for us to understand the inputs. I think it's important for us to understand all of the different mechanisms in which schools are funded, of which, again, I'm not an expert. It will be a huge learning curve for me to understand that. We have to be able to communicate back based on the trust that we established at the very beginning. And we have to be able to communicate not just the good things that are happening, but let's be clear, we are going to face some really tough decisions over the next 4 years of the term of this school board. And so it's not just communicating the good things, but it's communicating transparently the tough decisions that are going to need to be made financially over the next 4 years. And I think the last thing is, at its core, is leadership. Good leadership starts with the board. Good leadership leads to trust. Good leadership leads to good communication. Good leadership leads to growth. And ultimately, good leadership leads to our ability as a great community and a great district to compete. And I think if anybody has read the news over the last 18 to 24 months, we are in a position where the playing field to compete for our kids, for our teachers, for our associates, for our support staff, for our administration is critical. And we have to be able to have an eye on competing for growth and competing success for our kids.
Thank you. Next, Mark.
Yeah, I think to echo a lot of what's already been said, but I think as a board member, some of the attributes that we need to have, as you will be working with a team of 7, is to have that teamwork and collaboration. So you can't just come in with your own agenda, as many have said here. We need to have a vision for it, and with that vision needs to come a lot of teamwork, a lot of communication, both amongst the board as well as within the community. As Nate said as well, just to build that trust back up. So as discussions happen, and there's a lot to be had here in the next several years with what we have to face, I think we just need to build that communication and collaboration as well. And again, no decisions made by an individual on this board. It has to be agreed upon. So that communication is key to getting that vision set, and then how are we going to bridge that gap to get there. Also, just to have those shared goals. So I think everybody's going to bring something different to this board, and we need to use those skills and use them to our ability. So if we have a very diverse board, we can go ahead and accomplish things quicker by using those skills to focus on different things and then bringing that back together for that overall vision. So I think also just the community, or the communication with the community. There's going to be a lot of tough decisions, that has been said, that we're going to have to make those hard decisions. And I think as a community, the more transparent that we are as a board will make that, I guess, less hard. To be open and honest with those of why we had to make that decision and also how we got there. So I think just having that openness to build on that, and then just bringing it all together, and I think that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Next question. Fairfield Schools recently had a bond referendum that failed to pass. What is your opinion on the current buildings in our district, and how will you get community buy-in? Let's start with Teresa.
I did attend some meetings, the last several board meetings, and this subject did come up, and then there was also a work session that I was able to attend where several options were made as to improvements on the buildings, several different options of maybe moving one grade to another. And I believe the one that I would support, that I really liked, was the opportunity to open a preschool in this community that I understand is very needed. There's limited preschool options here for families, and if we opened up one, that would open up opportunity for families to move here that have younger children. If there's no opportunities for them, this is not likely to be an option for them to move to. So there were some options there, and I really did like some of those, moving some things around. And it's going to take making some adjustments in some of the buildings for one class to move to another school building and to open up an opportunity in one of the elementary schools for pre-K. And I did like the idea of that those children then being able to, if they attended preschool in that building, then moving up to kindergarten and to first grade, and having that continuity of they're familiar with the building, the teachers that they have seen, and I really like that. I think it's a great opportunity for this community to have some input in that. I know that there's been some work sessions and opportunities to reach out in the community and to find out what everybody thinks. So if you can keep an eye on the website and see when that's going to be discussed or having some public opinion into it, I would ask everybody to look into that and see about coming in and having your voice heard and finding out what exactly is being offered. Thank you.
Thank you. David?
Thanks, Joe. Well, I think, first of all, we have to stabilize our financial health. I know that Mr. Bauer said eloquently that the budget is complex. We have to understand it. We have to understand our revenue streams. We have to rationalize our expenses. But that doesn't mean that we can cut our way out of decline to a growth strategy. We can't cut our way to through infrastructure, salaries, and benefits. We have to be able to present a plan to the community. I know that there's been a committee that has outlined a lot of capital issues in our school district. We need to go through those and prioritize those and establish a capital plan for our infrastructure and our buildings that our community can understand and support. And we also need, as a community, to know that facilities also are part of teacher retention, attracting quality teachers, arresting our enrollment, and we have to provide those facilities to our school district and our teachers and our administrators so that they can be successful. So we have to first of all have a credible plan that we can communicate to our community the highest and best use of their tax dollars and assure them in a trustworthy, transparent manner that we are the best stewards of those hard-earned resources. But we have to realize that as a community, if we're going to have a growth strategy, we have to support it. If we can't support it, and if we continue to fight battles of years ago, then we will continue in a decline and we will be consolidated. And I don't think that's what our community wants. So I think that there's a lot of work to do, but I think we can communicate to our community. They've shown a lot of support. You being here, I hand out scholarships every year. We provide $162,000 to our seniors every year. So the community does support it if we can communicate in a transparent manner and something they can understand.
Thank you. Tim?
Thank you. So the board, we had the referendum a couple years ago, and as we all know, it failed. Our facilities are, is that better? All right. Our facilities need work, they need improvement, but that doesn't mean you have to tear them down and start over and have brand new buildings and so forth. We all of us that graduated in the Fairfield School District, even my dad, who graduated many years ago, the high school picture is on the front of that quill. And it's something we all relate to. To do away with that building would be very difficult, nor am I even going to suggest that. But we have to look at the facilities we have, because it's not just the building, it's the programming we can offer in those buildings. So we've got to make sure we're doing what's right so that people want to come to the community. Every place that I've moved to, we always looked first at the school in that area that we were going to be trying to find a home. That was the first thing we did. And a lot of districts, that doesn't really make a difference. It's one town, one school, but in some it does. So you have to look at that. And you got to have a facility and programming that also attracts and retains teachers, and employees, the staff that work on the buildings, and all the way around. So it's very important to have that facilities that will meet the needs of our students, but also of our staff and our community. And it has to reflect the community also, what goes on in Fairfield, in Jefferson County. So how that will be done is going through the process. So the current architect, FEH, has been involved in many of these. They know how it's done, what needs to be looked at, and they've done a number of surveys. They were impressed at how much involvement and interest this community has. And so we've got to take and build upon that and build groups, figure out what it's going to take to build what we need, get the teachers' input, get the students' input, bring all those individuals together so that we can then define what it is that's needed, so that we can then put something to the community that they will support. And it can't be just mildly supported. It's got to be overwhelmingly supported, because everybody's got a want. And we need to figure out what those wants are and build that upon that, and then communicate it. Forums, every way you can. You cannot over-communicate when it comes to a bond referendum of this nature or any nature. So I look forward to that opportunity of helping this community and this town grow forward.
Thank you. Let's go with open enrollment numbers have been negative for the Fairfield Community School District in recent years. What will you do as a board member to flip these numbers around? Let's start with Nate.
Well, I'll go back to a previous answer. I think that's a loaded question, and I don't have the magic answer for that. I think I'll go back to what I talked about earlier in terms of what needs to happen in the next 12 to 18 months of the 4-year term. The very first thing is reestablishing trust and transparency in the district. You cannot address an open enrollment problem if you don't have the trust and transparency of the key stakeholders, which are kids first, teachers, administrators, associates, support staff second, and community members third. So if you don't have that open communication, and if you don't have that trust, open enrollment is not going to be an addressable issue. Second thing, and I think David has touched on it better than I, financial responsibility and a financial understanding of how you are going to set the district up to support growth and sustain growth, not just in getting kids back, but being able to attract and retain the best talent, to be able to have the best programs, to be able to have the best services, to be able to have the best facilities. All of those things go in tandem to addressing the open enrollment problem, with the overarching theme of setting ourselves up to compete to be the best choice for parents when they are looking at where they want to send their kids to school. That's how you do it, in my opinion. That's how you address the open enrollment issue. It's not a magic pill. It's not an easy answer by any means. It is an answer of passion. It is an answer of trust and transparency. And it's an answer of setting yourself up to compete to be the best place for all the stakeholders to participate for the best interest of the kids.
Thank you. Teresa?
For me, when I was looking into this issue of open enrollment, and I've come into this community in the last couple of years, we've only lived here about a year and a half, and being told that there was a great drop in the number of children that were going to our schools, that we lost a lot of numbers. And how would we go back and fix that? And my first response is, why did they leave? What made this large number of students leave? It's a big thing for parents to pull children out of the school system and decide to either homeschool them or drive to another community to take them to school. One parent has to give up a career or its family goes into less money. It's a big decision for a lot of students to leave the school system. And my question is, what contributed to that? What caused these parents to make those decisions? And how do we go back and reach those parents, or look at the ideas of what was put in place and what made those parents decide to take their children out of the school system? And as has been set up here, openness and honesty, but also looking at each parent and their ideals and standards for their children. This is not a, we make this decision for everybody, and there are parents that just can't put up with some things that have been made, rules in the school system. Then we need to look at that and address those issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. What should our school district do to better prepare students as citizens? Tim?
This is one question that I was hoping I could ask because I'm very passionate about this. When I grew up in this community, we had an excellent industrial arts program, auto-body program, automotive maintenance program, a lot of programs that aren't as to the point where they are today. And in order for, and those aren't the only things, we had graduates, we had teachers that were retired or were no longer employed at Parsons College as teachers in the classroom in high schools and high school and middle school. Those individuals helped me to understand and prepare me for the future. Skilled trades are very key to our community, and not every student is going to go and attend a 2-year or 4-year college. So we need to be able to have the programming that will allow that to happen so that these children come out of school with a career readiness attitude. And without doing that, we struggle, and we're doing our children a dissatisfaction, because not everybody wants to go to college, nor should they, but we have a shortage of skilled trade people right here in our own community, where we have our own supply of those children that want to do that, that are going to other schools because of that. So we've got to bring that programming back to this school district so that we can have that and provide that for the students. It's very important to me. I'm very passionate about that part of it. I'll be the first one to tell you, not every child wants to go to college, nor should they. They go to college, they get a 4-year degree or 2-year degree, and they end up with a huge amount of debt, and then they end up doing what they could have done if they'd had skilled trade programming at the local school. So that's one of my key aspects when it comes to preparing students for the future, is making sure we have the programming that will address everybody's needs, but don't forget about the ones that want to go get their hands dirty, so to speak, or that we need here in this community today.
Thank you. Christy?
I think there are a lot of things we could do within our school system to better prepare students for a post-high school world. Obviously, leadership is key to that, and providing strong leadership for them in terms of our administrators, our superintendent, our teachers. That's going to be key to making that happen. Every child is going to have a different path, and all of those paths are going to look different from one another. And one of the things I would say is I feel like in the last many years, there's just been a lot of noise around things that really shouldn't matter in our schools. Politics don't belong in our schools. Things like that should not be talked about. We need to be focusing on the basics of what's important. That's making sure that our kids know how to read and write and do math and they know how to run finances when they graduate high school. And if they want to go to college, they know what those opportunities look like. You know, do they want a 2-year program? Do they want a 4-year program? Do they want to go work before they go to college and figure out what that looks like? There's so many different avenues that can be explored, and it's our job to educate them on what those avenues might look like and offer them those opportunities, scholarships, whatever it may be, so that these students can get the same opportunities, whether they were raised, you know, in a single household where, you know, they're low income, or a 2-parent household with a high income. You know, it's our job to set up a stage so that all of those kids can be successful and given those same opportunities. One of the things that I've seen as of late is traveling opportunities through our school districts. I think that's an amazing opportunity for our kids, and something that you learn more through traveling than you can in any classroom. And so looking at some avenues on getting students out there into the world, experiencing different things that they may not have ever experienced before. And we can do that within our school systems. And I think that's something that we need to take advantage of as much as possible.
Thank you. Next question. What issues do you believe your district needs to address in its academic program and offerings? What changes would you recommend? Let's start with Megan.
Thanks. Iowa schools used to be considered the top in the country, 2nd or 3rd. That was when I was in school. So it is disheartening to see that we've dropped below the middle of the pack, and it makes you wonder what's going on. I wonder as a parent. I also look at my kids' schoolwork and I wonder what's going on sometimes. I've recently spoken with the interim superintendent, and I have a lot of questions about curriculum and how often curriculum is reviewed. I totally agree with Christy in terms of the way to set these kids up for success is making sure that they know how to write papers well, and they can communicate, read, write, math. The basics are really important. Again, I think it also comes down to trusting the teachers and empowering the teachers to feel they can lead their class in the best possible way, to do more creative types of lesson planning that helps reach the diverse ways that children learn these days. You know, I feel like I'm saying a lot about all the cognitive skills, but, you know, in hand with that, you have to practice those, you know, absorb those non-cognitive skills as well. So it's not all just about reading and writing and math. We want to make sure that we are giving our kids those leadership skills and really helping instill confidence in them, in themselves, so they feel confident every day coming to school. They feel successful.
Thank you. David?
Thanks, Joe. Well, I think first and foremost, we have to understand that parents are in charge of their children's education. They are our students, they are their children. But when they come to school, they have to realize that there are high expectations for them. All our students, up to their capabilities. We expect them to achieve at their capability level. And if our teachers are successful at that, our students will be successful at that, and that will build into the citizenship question. It will build into teacher retention and competing. But I think first and foremost, that is the guiding principle that we need to operate on. Certainly, as far as curriculum and those issues at the board level, we're a governance body. We set policy, we set the direction of the school district, and we trust the new superintendent to lead and execute down to the building level, down to the classroom level. And then we need to support those people in that endeavor, both in compensation and recognition, but also in in their work. So I think that it starts there and it finishes with that trust and support of our teachers. I don't have any specific academic changes that come to mind, but I think overall as a board, we're not in the classroom, we're not teaching. We're a governance body, and we set the strategic direction and the policies for the district.
Thank you. Given all the issues that arise, how can the board stay focused on student achievement? Mark?
I think as a board for student achievement, we need to put our trust in those that we hire. So a lot of that is put back on the teachers. So we hire the teachers for a reason. They are the experts. They know what's going on. They are, we need to put our trust in that and give them back the ability to do what they're hired to do. I feel like we have kind of stepped away from that and put a lot of other worries on these teachers that they didn't need to have. And so I think we just need to be there to understand what struggles they're going through, to set that back up to get the teachers back to doing what they have a passion for, and that is teaching our kids. And with that, we will see all kinds of changes in the students and the vision and how they're going to succeed as students. I also think that we have a couple things to address with a thing called COVID that happened a couple years ago. We have lots of students that took several years, in an online situation that was very hard for some of the younger grades. And so I think as we look to help those students, again, comes back to providing them what they need and understanding what that is and adjusting to that and giving them the opportunity to learn those skills that they maybe missed or weren't addressed during those years, and how we can empower our teachers to go ahead and do that and look at them and give them the direction that they need to kind of say, you are the experts, now let's go see it happen. I also think that as a board, we need to give that vision. So again, I think we're down to what is the vision for the overall schools, and how can the board give that vision so everybody can buy into that vision and keep things moving in the right direction.
Thank you. Nate?
Well, I'd echo what Mark says. I think student achievement starts with, hiring really great people and letting them do their job. I mean, that's the core focus of what a board should do, is find the best people that you can find and give them the tools, give them the support, and give them the ability to go do their job to the best of their ability. All the things we've talked about prior to this go into that equation. I'd take it a little bit further. Student achievement today certainly starts with the basics that Christy and Megan talked about in terms of, reading and writing and the basic principles of education, but it goes further. Something that I'm passionate about is, STEM, right? Science, technology, engineering, and math. And I think when you look at those things and look at the possibilities that those core academic principles provide young kids, and couple it with the richness we have in our community for learning it in the classroom and then being able to go out into our community and experience it in the companies and the businesses and the organizations that reside in our own community, are incredibly powerful. So where one child may grasp the concept and understand the concept in student achievement in the classroom, another child may get it in the classroom but may really excel if we get them out in the community and get them involved and seeing the things in real life. It's not just teaching it to them in the classroom, and that goes for our teachers as well. I'll give a really quick success story that I'm really proud of. Mr. Kramer, high school art teacher, came to us through a program that the governor offered last year, which was called an externship program, where teachers come into businesses and try to figure out what exactly they do. And we were so blessed to have Mr. Kramer, because not only is he an amazing talent, but we learned as much from him as hopefully he learned from us in terms of what can we do better to help provide the support and the resource so that ultimately those students are achieving inside the classroom and outside of the classroom. If you put all of those things together, now you really drive a recipe for success for those students and their achievement in the classroom.
Thank you. Next question. How does the school board balance the need to provide a quality education with the need to respond to the local taxpayer burden? Let's go with Tim.
Okay, I'm thinking here a second. So, our finances are driven by not only the local tax burden, but the state tax burden and local option sales tax and all the funds that come to us. All of those buckets come together and give us the ability to put the budget in place to provide so that this district or the superintendent can then determine what programming we're going to have to offer, what we can offer. It's not one size fits all. I heard Mr. Eastburn talk about the different, you have to categorize them all and figure out what is best. We can't just start cutting. We can't be removing things because our students still need the programming to learn. So it's a very fine line, and I think it was mentioned about the current board has looked at a budgeting program that will allow us to evaluate everything that is spent within the community, and then will allow us to put it in the right buckets, whether it should be a Pebble money or management fund or whatever fund it should come from that will help put more money into the classroom and help, because they all go to the classroom, but whether it's teachers or programming, whatever it may be, is where the main focus needs to be. So optimization and the expertise of the superintendent and our finance manager and then all the staff and the teachers pulled together is one thing this new budgeting program, I hope, will allow us to do a better job of seeing the visibility of what's going on. In the past, you get so much money, so many percentages, they put it in the different buckets, and that's what got spent. This is going to rein that in, so the money goes where it needs to be, and I really look forward to that. But utilizing that budget program so we can get the proper programming to the kids, to the students, and try to get rid of some of the waste that's not being needed today or that the teachers are having to do on a daily basis will help. Our teachers are saddled with a lot of things, and there was an individual I got to listen to 10 years ago that showed the scroll, had a couple pages of what teachers are responsible for, and now it's a whole scroll. And we've got to narrow that down and make sure they only have to do what needs to be done.
Thank you. Teresa?
I agree with Tim about the budget. I think that's a big thing about balancing the education and the taxes and the money. Education costs money, but there's also a lot of money in a lot of places in a complex school system like we have. And education and the board and the district, there's a lot of money in different buckets and different silos that it can be complex, and I don't even understand. I'm not going to pretend that I have a great understanding of it. But this program, this budget program that was put forward, and I've only heard an overview of it, but it was very interesting going into programs and being able to put everything into a package and being able to see things and where the money is being spent and maybe being able to get a better understanding of we've got too much here, not enough here, and being able to still meet the educational needs, and I would like to say exceed the educational needs for our kids, that each kid gets the best education, whether they're in a gifted and talented class, whether they might need to have some special needs class for a while, whether you're in the main body of the student, every student getting the best. That I think that we can do that if we get a hold of what money we have and where it's being spent. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I lost my place. Okay, maintaining a budget is always a tough thing to do. What guiding principles would you use in the event spending cuts were called for? And I'll hear from Christy first.
Maintaining a budget, can you repeat the second part of that? I'm sorry.
Sure I can. What guiding principles would you use in the event spending cuts were called for?
So I have spent a lot of time over the last month or so just diving into the world of school finances, which is complicated, and learning about this new budgeting process. And it's been very difficult to get any answers as far as what is currently happening with our budget and where funds are being spent. And so obviously step one is just nailing down, a clear budget and figuring out where those dollars are going so that you're able to allocate them effectively and efficiently. One of my big concerns that I've talked about tonight is teacher retention. Our turnover rates have been so crazy. I can't even imagine how much money our school district is wasting just on teacher turnover. Every year we're retraining new teachers over and over and over again. That's costing our district a lot of money that we could have instead been spending on paying these teachers appropriately and getting them to stay here in our district and, having that consistency for our students. So those are some of my key thoughts, just off the top of my head as far as that goes. And then just communicating with our community on the fact that our schools are such an important recruiting tool for our community, and it is something that we need to invest in. And it's not just beneficial to parents who have children, it's beneficial to our entire community. It's beneficial to our businesses. It's beneficial to our farmers. It's beneficial to everyone. And so we need not just parents and teachers invested in our community, we have to have other stakeholders from our community involved in these decisions. When this bond referendum came up, I know they had several meetings, to discuss this, and the turnout for these meetings was so poor. And so our community members, it's also their job to educate themselves on what's happening in our community and how we can best allocate that money and what is best for our community as a whole.
Thank you. Megan?
Thanks. I think as Christy mentioned, we have to understand the budget. So there's some work to do. This program-based budget plan that the current board has recently passed, I think will help go a long way to put everything into the right bucket, to understand where we're spending money. And then my understanding is from there, we have a group of diverse stakeholders, teachers, parents, admin, and then this team looks at these programs side by side, and unfortunately, cuts will be recommended when you put, program A next to program B, program A next to program C. Nobody wants to make cuts. I mean, it's not a fun conversation. So, after that process, I think the most important thing is involving the people, like teachers that are affected by it, involving parents, involving community members. And then on the other side, looking for ways we can increase revenue. Creative problem solving. Maybe there are community members and donors and grants and all sorts of things that will allow us to minimize the effects of cuts that are necessary. From what I've heard, it's not helpful to do a lot of little cuts, and it's more important to kind of address things and get our budget where it needs to be. With the enrollment issue, it really has a big impact. When kids enroll out, it happens 2 kids in one grade, 2 kids in another grade. You can't just cut a section you can't just cut a teacher from, because you lost 20 kids, because it's across the whole school, K through 12. So lots of stakeholders, not fun. I don't know what else to say, but we've got to figure out how to bring the budget, in wraps, so thanks.
Thank you. In order to keep on time, we're going to move into closing statements, and anything you candidates want to say that hasn't been discussed, you're welcome to do. And you'll have 3 minutes, and we're going to start with David.
Thanks, Joe. Well, I want to thank everyone for this opportunity to serve and to present myself to the community. I strongly believe in the Fairfield Community School District, its staff, its teachers, its administrators, and this community and its support. I think we have a small opportunity, a small window that's open to us at this point to arrest the decline that we see in our school district and get us on a growth path. I think that with that purpose of success, we can attract teachers and students to our community, and we can improve our long-term financial health and also provide the facilities that we can be proud of in our community, and also provide for our teachers and our administrators. I think we need a strong and committed board to set that strategic direction, and I really desperately would like to be part of that team. We have a lot of good candidates in front of you. I think we can have a good board team that can govern in a trustworthy and transparent manner. I think that window is open, but we as a community have to also realize that we face the headwinds that most rural Iowa faces, demographically, economically. We have a very small margin for error in the decisions that we make. So we have to form a team. We have to make those decisions in a trustworthy, accountable, transparent manner. If we are faced with this budget cuts, that means we haven't done our job. We haven't focused on unspent general fund revenues. If we are there, we haven't done our job. And so it's my intent not to get us to that point, or to stabilize us at this point and to grow our school district. So thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to serving you.
Thank you. We'll move on to Mark.
I think if what you've seen from this panel is we're a lot of dedicated people to this community. I think that's what I've seen most about being in the community of Fairfield, is there are dedicated families and generations of families here that have lived here, that have moved away and come back to raise their family here. And so I think what this board needs as we move forward is just a vision for Fairfield, a vision and leadership. I think those are the two things that we are lacking in the Fairfield Community School District. And so I think as we move through these next couple of years, I think that is very key for this board. And I feel like I can provide a steadfast leadership, which steadfast to me means calm, dependable, reliable, and constant. If you know me, I'm very calm, and I think that demeanor can help with things that come up with, like the teachers that we have been facing, and being an active listener for them and giving them feedback as they pour out their heart of what they want and what they need to do their job. And so I think I can fill that gap of providing that communication back and forth, and then bringing that to the board to make decisions to help encourage our teachers and to give them a path for success. I think, as Mr. Pompsai said earlier in one of his wrap-ups as well, is we need a lot of relationship building. that transparency, that communication. All that happens by relationships, whether that's from board member to board member, faculty to students, administration to faculty. All of that needs to happen with relationships, and I feel like I can bring that to the table as well, of buying into that family-oriented, I guess, just mindset that we want to build here at Fairfield. And I care deeply. I am committed to Fairfield. I will work hard to change Fairfield to a positive direction, and just look forward to the opportunity to build these schools into a way that we have that vision that everybody can buy into, and make Fairfield a place where people want to come and visit and bring their families to succeed.
Thank you. Nate?
Thank you. I would echo, some of the other things that have been said and certainly will be said, but I'll end with this. I love this place. I love this community. I've been so fortunate to be deeper in the system, to be surrounded by the young kids, and I just love what the future holds for these kids and for our district. I'm not blind to the challenges. I'm not blind to things that have gone on over the past several years. I'm unique, probably one of the only candidates up here that has been in the midst of the turmoil over the last couple of years as a coach and embedded in the district and seen the tragedy and turmoil firsthand, and how it impacts our young people, not just in the education that they're getting, but in the mental health and in the things that they struggle with outside of the classroom. And so I'm excited to bring that perspective to the school board, and I'm excited to bring that perspective to the outlook, which ultimately is change. And I think that's the thing that I would like to leave everybody with, is it is time for change. No matter whether you're talking about teacher pay, teacher retention, I would love if anybody wants to sit for an hour and some odd minutes to talk more about the budgeting process. Because change is inevitable in all of those areas. And I think everybody up here, that certainly I've had the ability and opportunity to be with, embraces the concept of change. And change is not easy. And I don't think that anybody in the audience tonight needs to be shy about the fact that I understand that change is not easy. I understand change comes with really good decisions and really easy and fun decisions. But most of the time, change comes with very hard decisions. And if you have the right team and you're surrounded with the right people and you empower the right leaders within the district, change can be a really great thing. And I'm excited to be a part of that process.
Thank you. Tim?
First of all, thank you. Like I said earlier, I'm glad to see everybody here, but this group is pretty amazing. A lot of great things were said, a lot of good things were discussed, all of which need to be done. Very important to us. So I want to thank all of you for being up here and putting yourself up here tonight. I've been through a few of these. You get real nervous, but once you get up here, you feel you're all with friends, because we all want the right thing for our children and for the students and for this community. One key thing is we all as a community have to do this, because in order to get students to come to this town, parents, families, we all have to work together to make it a place to go. And that will help so many things heal themselves, whether it's finances, your enrollment, all those things we've talked about today. It's not all doom and gloom. We have some of the brightest teachers, brightest students, community people that want to do what's right for this community and that knows how to do it. I look forward to serving on the board again. It's a passion of mine. I've got close family members that teach, administrators. I'll be honest with you, I worry about them when they go to the buildings in some of the areas they're at, because of so many different factors we've got going on. And we've got to work on that together to improve the safety and make this community, the children feel comfortable when they go in those buildings, not only the children, but the students and the teachers. So I look forward to being able to continue those things that we've got to do. Finances are a trouble for every district in the state and probably beyond. We in the rural parts of the state are hurting more than others because of just the nature of the way it is. But we can change that. We can fix that. It's not going to be easy. As it's been said, there's going to be some decisions that probably aren't going to be very favorable. It's going to be a very challenged year or two for the new superintendent that's selected. It's not going to be easy. We're going to have to be patient because there's going to be things that are going to happen that he's going to get, or she or them is going to get the blunt for the cause. So we've got to help them work together as a community, work together as a team. Remember, we are one board. We vote 7 individuals, but we are a board, and we have to remember to do that and work together and communicate with all those and listen to all those stakeholders in the community. I want to thank you, and I appreciate your time, and thank you for coming out tonight.
Thank you. Teresa?
I want to thank everybody again for coming out for this. And I want to thank everybody that's on this stage. And I just want to bring up again, and I think Tim kind of alluded to this, we're a team. We're all a team. Where the board is a team, and it's not about our differences, but about how we collectively come together. I might have strengths and weaknesses. I do have strengths and weaknesses different from anybody else up here and the other members that are on the board. But our strengths and our weaknesses come together. And that also comes from the community, the parents, the teachers. Each one of us comes together for the collective whole. So I had a question. What are your differences? What makes you different that makes you better than anybody else to be elected? And I don't like that question. It's not our differences. We come together to be one team. I can tell you, I was ready for this, a tribute question. I had all these things written down and I didn't get answered. I just wanted to say that I want to be for you the best that can be. Honesty, integrity, patience, servant leadership, endurance, accountability, and openness to team, openness to change, openness to suggestion, openness to learning new things. There's going to be a lot of new things to learn. And as Tim said, a new superintendent's going to come in, and there's going to be another person to add to it, coming in with new ideas and new strengths and new possibilities that might be different than what we do now. But we need to be open to suggestion and possibilities. I strongly support our schools giving primary emphasis on teaching the basic skills, teaching reading, teaching writing, teaching traditional math. I strongly support the special needs student. I've had children and grandchildren that have needed some help, and that would not be one of the things that I would suggest cutting. Healthy foods and exercise, parents' access to the curriculum and the teaching that's being taught to their children. Discipline being enforced in our classrooms. I have so much written here, and I don't want to go over time, but I just want to say I welcome the opportunity to serve on the school board. I ask for your support, and I thank you.
Thank you. Christy?
Thank you. We are living in a very different world than when I grew up and went to high school here. Every day I'm surprised by the things that my kids come home and tell me about their experiences at school. And I'm excited for the opportunity to help guide our district in a positive direction and to just help create a positive culture and an environment that promotes collaboration and open communication. There's outside pressures on our kids that we never faced as children, and that's something that is very difficult to navigate. And we as parents and educators, it's our duty to help them figure out how to navigate through those things. So I just want to say, my goals, I'm very passionate about the town of Fairfield. I've been very involved in the community in many ways. I was in the Habitat Humanity Board. I've been involved in several fundraising projects for the Park and Rec when that was built. I founded an organization called Little Superheroes that helps families who have chronically ill children. I served on the Jefferson County Hospital Foundation Board and the Fairfield Crush Board, the Fairfield Golf and Country Club Board. I do believe that financial responsibility is instrumental to being a qualified candidate for the school board. It is going to be a huge part of what we do over the next 4 years, and I will do my best to understand and make the most educated and best decisions for our community and to help educate our community on why those decisions are being made. So thank you all for coming out and listening.
Thank you. Megan?
Thanks, and it's great to hear from everyone tonight. It's a lot of wonderful thoughts. Thank you guys all for being here. It's really important to be here tonight, and I think to continue to have these conversations, beyond just a stage like this tonight during an election. I have found as a business owner that the really tough, challenging times provide the most opportunity for innovation, and for progress forward in ways that you never imagined. So while it feels really uncomfortable, sometimes with the lack of communication that I know existed with teachers and administration, and it's frustrating where we are with our budget, I hope that this allows us to really shine a light on what we can do to be even better than we imagined. I want to be, and I want all of us to feel really proud of our school. I know so many of us feel proud of Fairfield, and we should feel the same way about our schools. We should be able to share that sense of pride. Our kids should feel really proud of where they've gone to school. We should feel like we have top-notch education, and I know we have wonderful educators who really care deeply about our kids. I see it, when I go in and I talk to my kids' educators. So yeah, I think earlier Adi, he said a lot of great things. He also said we don't have the messaging right, and I think it's really sometimes about Fairfield. We don't get it out there. And I think as we strengthen who we are as a brand, as the brand of Fairfield Community School District, because we have to compete, in a sense, as a brand. We're no longer just a public good. We have to be out there. We have to sell ourselves. What are our strengths? I think we have to get that message out there, and we all have to carry it, not just the school board, not the administrators and parents, but really everyone in the community needs to be a stakeholder here. Yeah, I'm sure I could say a lot more, but it's always hard on a stage to think. So thank you guys so much for coming out tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Let's give our candidates a round of applause. Thank you again to our sponsor, Freeman Kevinese Law Firm. Special appreciation to Fairfield Media Center for live streaming this event. And remember, when you're out there on the highways and byways, this is fall harvest season for the farmers, and the machinery does not move as fast as you do. So please have a safe travels home. Happy Halloween.